What's up, Epic Gamers? So in today's video, I'm going to be going over the differences in Death Note between the anime and the manga. I've watched the anime a few times through now, but I've only recently started reading the manga, and I noticed that there's a few differences in it. So the way I'm going to do this video is I'm going to start by going through what happens in the anime, and then I'm going to go over the manga and go over the differences and kind of go deeper into it. We're going to go ahead and start this off by running down the story of the anime, and then after that we're going to switch over to the manga. We start off the series getting introduced to Light Yagami, a super student on track to graduate with high marks.
Follow the teachings of God and receive his blessings, and so it shall be that the seas will again become bountiful.
Now, whenever he finds the Death Note, he just, thinks it's all a joke.
That's pretty lame. Not to mention, twisted.
When Light first uses the Death Note, he doesn't think it'll work.
Wait, on the off chance someone really dies, would that make me a murderer? Yeah, right. It's completely impossible.
The first victim he uses it on is holding hostages inside a school.
The same assailant who attacked 6 people at a busy shopping district in Shinjuku yesterday has struck again, taking 8 people hostage at this daycare center. His captives include both children and teachers. The police have now identified the suspect as 42-year-old Kuro Otoharada, currently unemployed.
The next day, while Light's on the way home from night classes, he tests the Death Note again.
Now, what will happen?
This time it's on a no-good biker.
What's up, little lady? The name's Tako Shibuimaru.
After Light gets home and goes up to his room, this is when he meets the Shinigami Ryuk.
You've taken quite a liking to it.
Ryuk then gives Light a crash course on the Death Note.
You're here to take my soul, right?
Huh? What do you mean? Is that some fantasy you humans came up with? I'm not gonna do anything to you. The notebook becomes part of the human realm from the very moment it touches the earth. But if you give it away, I'd have no choice but to erase your memories of the notebook. You will feel the fear and pain known only to humans who've used the notebook. And when it's your time to die, it will fall on me to write your name in my death note. Any human who's used a death note can neither go to heaven nor hell for eternity. You are the only one who's able to see me. I did it because I was bored. Now you have something to look forward to after you die. That's all.
We start off again with Light in class, but he's joined by Ryuk this time.
You don't have anything to do. Aren't you just gonna go home and hang out in your room as usual?
While Light is writing down names in his Death Note, he's interrupted by his sister.
It's Sayu. What is it?
Can you help me with my homework?
Yeah, okay.
This is when Light learns that other people that touch the Death Note can then see Ryuk.
If anyone else touches that notebook you've got hidden in the drawer right now, they'll be able to see me too.
He waits till now to mention that important detail? Damn Shinigami.
We then cut to a meeting room where officials are talking about the spike in deaths.
We're treating this as an elaborate murder plot that's been carried out by a large organization.
If it is a large organization, I'm sure I'm not alone in suspecting the FBI or CIA.
I dare you to say that again!
L then makes his grand introduction into the series.
Greetings to all of you at the ICPO. I am L.
We see Light testing out his new security measure to keep his Death Note protected.
You see, once the ink reservoir is inserted, it acts as an insulator, preventing the flow of electricity around this circuit. The fake base of the drawer is put back. This piece of rubber also prevents the flow of electricity. If someone were to try and force the bottom of the drawer open, the circuit would connect, and that would ignite the gasoline contained in this thin plastic case, instantly setting the notebook on fire. The way I've got it set up, all the evidence would be completely destroyed. If I'm ever questioned, I'll just say that I was hiding the real diary because I didn't want anyone to see it. It sounds like a pretty believable excuse. I mean, it is my diary after all.
After browsing the internet, Light sees that Kira is born.
Ryuk, you should check this out.
Huh?
Websites like this are popping up everywhere lately.
The Legend of Kira the Savior. Huh. Sounds pretty cool.
L then goes on live TV to challenge Kira publicly.
Kira, I've got a pretty good idea what your motivation might be, and I can guess what you hope to achieve. However, What you're doing right now is evil.
You think I'm evil?
After Light falls for the bait, the real L comes out and challenges Kira directly and lays out his whole plan.
If you did indeed kill Lind L. Taylor, the man who you just saw die on television, I should tell you that he was an inmate whose execution was scheduled for today. That was not me.
He got you there.
Try to kill me.
You bastard.
Well, Kira, it seems that you can't kill me after all. We are only broadcasting in the Kanto region of Japan. You are in Japan, and your first victim was little more than an experiment, which means that you haven't been killing for very long. It won't be too long now before I am able to sentence you to death. Let's meet again soon, Kira.
Really?
That wraps it up for the first 2 episodes of the anime. Now we're going to switch over to the manga. In the manga, we start with Ryuk dropping his notebook into the human realm. Also, the anime likes to play with Light being chosen or finding the notebook by fate. But the manga kind of flat out states this notebook will set off an all-out battle between 2 chosen people. Now, it's not Ryuk saying this, I don't believe. It's not Light or anyone else saying it. So I think the manga just kind of has a narrator that pops in every once in a while. In the manga, we also see Light hanging around with a group of friends, and while Light is still popular in the anime, we rarely see him interacting with other people. The manga also plays with time in an interesting way. We'll see scenes after they've happened, and then we'll get a flashback to moments later, and then it'll explain what just happened. And these are differentiated by the borders. The present day has the white background, while all the flashbacks have the solid black background. In the anime, we see everything basically chronologically. The way Light's portrayed in the manga is also different, whereas in the anime, he is Kira. In the manga, it's almost like a split personality. He's also generally just a lot edgier in the manga. In the anime, whenever Light gets home from school, he tries to talk about his day to his mom, but his mom is waiting for test results. In the manga, Light just hands her the test results and then walks up to his room. Also in the manga, Light's mom is more motherly in the get some meat on your bones kind of way. The scene when Light is in the alley after his second kill in the manga is more drawn out, and you see him trying to rationalize his actions and what he's done and what he's about to do. And Light even thinks about throwing the Death Note away, and he tries to just justify the 2 people he's killed, and he even goes as far as to asking if he has the guts to do it. Ultimately, they come to the same conclusion, but in the manga, it's drawn out and it lets us see more of the process he goes through from model student to model maniac. In the manga, there's also a panel where Light talks about the toll being Kira has taken on him, barely sleeping and losing 10 pounds. When L is confronting Kira on live TV, Light's more offended by what L said, saying things like he's the savior of this world and that going against him is an act of evil. So that wraps it up for part 1. In part 2, I will be covering the rest of book 1, and then after that I plan on going book by book, and at the end I'll take all of the episodes and make a supercut into one long video. There might even be a little bonus video because I have an extra book and an extra DVD with bonus content that I haven't even looked through yet. So there might be a little end recap and then going over the bonus content, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and I think that's about it. So until next time, later. Hey, what's up, Epic Gamers? So as you can see by the title, this is a part 2. I know, right? What the fuck? He's actually doing a part 2 to something. What's gonna happen next? Cats and dogs? Who knows? So yeah, this is a part 2 to my Death Note video. If I can figure it out, I'll have it to where you can click up in the corner for part 1. If you haven't seen it, this video won't make that much sense. So probably go ahead and check that one out and then come back here. And like and subscribe while you're doing that, might as well. But so in this video, I'm going over the differences between the manga and the anime. I'm going to be going over the anime first, and then I'm going to be going into the manga. And yeah, there isn't much else I need to say. So I'll get right into it. So we start off in the police station where they're discussing the Kira case.
Upon further investigation, we have confirmed that information of the heart attack victims was in fact publicly available in Japan immediately prior to their deaths.
L deduces that Kira is a student based off the times of death and how they happened.
It suggests that given the times of death, our suspect could very well be a student. I think it's safe to assume that he's driven by a very idealistic notion of justice. It's highly possible he may even aspire to be some sort of godlike figure. We're dealing with an individual who has a very childish concept of right and wrong.
While discussing the Kira case, Masuda points out that there has been a drop in violent crime since Kira has been operating.
In the last few days throughout the world, but especially here in Japan, we've observed a dramatic decrease in the number of violent crimes committed.
After the meeting, Masuda apologizes for what he said, but the chief gives him some words of encouragement.
I wanted to apologize.
What on earth are you talking about? Nobody said it would be easy to speak the truth, but it has to be done, especially when it's something that isn't easy to say.
We cut back to the house where Light is helping his sister with her homework.
I knew I could count on you, Light.
Hey, so do you think you're ready to try a few on your own now?
Huh?
We then learn that the chief of police is Light's father.
Hey, glad you could join us for dinner. You hungry, Dad?
Yeah, it's been a long day.
We learn that Light gets his information by hacking his father's computer.
That's right. It's easy for me to hack into Dad's computer. We're on a home network, so I can copy the files I need without leaving a trace. This way I can keep track of their investigation.
We then cut to the police station where we see the chief of police reacting to the news of the recent deaths.
He's killing one off every hour on the hour.
Considering that this new pattern has been going on for 2 weekdays,
it does punch some holes in the theory that our suspect is a student.
L deduces that Kira can control the time of death and that he has access to police information.
I believe Kira is telling us that not only can he kill from a distance, but he can also determine the time of death.
Kira has access to police information. It's obvious now. This is a direct challenge to me.
Light's plan is to lead L to suspected someone on the police force, so the police force will start to get mad at L, exposing L to Kira.
It will appear that L and the investigation team are working together to try to catch me. But in reality, L will investigate the police, and they will be investigating L. I'm not the one who's going to find L. I can let the police do that for me. And when they do, that's when I'll eliminate him.
We cut to the police headquarters where a line of officers are resigning from the case for fear of dying.
We demand that you assign us to a different case. Otherwise, you can have our badges right here and now. It's because we value our lives, sir.
We see Ryuk pacing Light's night classes when he notices a shadowy figure looming outside. We learn that L has deployed FBI agents to investigate the police and their families.
We brought the FBI to Japan 4 days ago. They're fully operational. As requested, they're now gathering intel on the police.
Ryuk tells Light about the shadowy figure from before and that he's following them now.
You're being followed by another human. He's watching you right now.
We also get a hint of Kira being a separate person, but it's played off more of a joke.
It's just that I'm no ally of yours, or Kira's if you prefer.
We then get to hear Ryuk tell Light about the Shinigami world and the Shinigami eyes.
I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. We are able to take human lifespans for ourselves. 60 minus 40 equals 20. Now those 20 years taken from someone in the human world are added to that god of death's life. No matter how many names you write in your death note, your lifespan will not increase. Shinigami can tell what a person's name is by just looking at their face. We know instantly. I'm able to see your name and lifespan right now. Our eyes just aren't the same, and that is the difference between you and I.
Light ends up not taking the deal because you have to give up half your remaining life to get the eyes.
The price for having a Shinigami's eyes is half of that person's remaining lifespan. That's all it is.
We start off the next episode in the Shinigami realm, where other Shinigami are talking about Ryuk's disappearance.
Has anyone seen Ryuk around lately? Maybe he was serious about losing his death note.
It was probably picked up by some human before he could get to it.
Ryuk is a little bit taken aback by the pure attitude Light's giving him.
This is what you call telling me early on? I don't see why you couldn't have told me this when we met. Or better yet, you could have simply included it in the instructions for the Death Note.
Good point. He's not the slightest bit daunted by the fact that I'm a Shinigami. He doesn't suck up to me, and he seems to have no problem giving me a hard time.
While Light looks down on being compared to a Shinigami, he appreciates the existence of Shinigami.
You're becoming a much more impressive Shinigami.
I don't know about that. I mean, from what you're telling me, it sounds like I'm doing a lot more work than they are, but I don't want to be compared to a Shinigami. But I wouldn't necessarily say that the Shinigami realm is meaningless to humans either. Whenever a Shinigami like you comes to the human world once every 100, no more like every 1,000 years, the human world changes dramatically.
We then cut to the chief of police on the phone where he's learning about the most recent deaths and the circumstances around them.
Bizarre behavior before they died? Could you be more specific?
Before one of them died, he drew a pentagram on the wall of his cell using his own blood. Another left a letter, but it doesn't seem to be a will or anything meaningful. And as for the third victim, he escaped from his cell and ran all the way to the staff bathrooms before he died.
With these deaths, we as well as Elle learn that Kira can control the actions of the people before they die, as well as the time.
I have reason to believe that Kira was performing some kind of test using these criminals. And if that's the case, we'd only be giving him the results if this information is leaked to the public.
After Light learns that his tests work, he comes up with a master plan to take out his shadow.
Look at this, Ryuk. I think we're in luck. The results of yesterday's little test have already been downloaded onto my dad's computer.
We see Light learn about the abilities and limits of the Death Note.
For the other 3 inmates, I purposely wrote conditions that were virtually impossible. Everyone knows that it's physically impossible to go from a prison in Japan to Paris, France in only 1 hour. Next was supposed to draw an exact picture of Elle's face on the prison wall. This also didn't happen. You can't draw someone you've never seen, right? It's impossible to make someone write what they don't already know. Or, at the very least, it has to be the kind of thing that they could come up with on their own. Basically, even the Death Note can't do the impossible.
We then see Light call in a date.
Hello? Light? Morning.
Light is meeting up with this date at the bus stop the next day.
It's a date no matter how you look at it. And I'm sure even my stalker will see it that way.
And we hear a voiceover from Light's shadow, and we learn that today is his last day tailing Light.
At any rate, I'll be done with my surveillance today, and that'll be it.
After traveling for a while, the bus stops and a questionable man boards and hijacks the bus, demanding money from Spaceland.
Stay in your seats unless you want to die! Have a female staff member bring all of Spaceland's cash from yesterday. I know it's there!
Light tries to pass his data note, playing the tough guy, but the FBI agent is sitting behind him and advises him against it.
Don't be stupid. That's risky.
After grilling the FBI agent, he ends up having to show Light his badge, and this gives away his name and his face.
Do you have any proof that you're not his accomplice? The first hijacker comes in like he's working alone. Meanwhile, a second one pretends to be a hostage and stays in the very back just in case something goes wrong.
I have no choice. I'm sure Light Yagami isn't Kira.
Ray Penber.
Light then drops a piece of paper, but the hijacker grabs it, not knowing it's part of the Death Note.
What the hell is that? Plans for a date, huh?
The hijacker then freaks out after seeing Ryuk and starts to shoot at him.
How long have you been hiding back there?
What's this? You're talking to me? Sorry, pal. I'm a Shinigami, so I'm afraid your bullets aren't gonna kill me.
After he runs out of bullets, he demands the bus stops and then runs out where he's hit by a car.
"11:45 on the dot. Everything went just as I planned."
We then get a full breakdown of how Light planned this all out.
Ichiro Osoreda, accidental death. Boards the 11:31 Spaceland-bound bus near the eastern entrance to the park, holding a loaded gun and attempts to hijack the bus. He sees a horrific phantom and empties his gun trying to kill it. Terrified, he flees the bus. Immediately afterwards, at 11:45, he dies when struck by a car. The Death Note never fails.
That's it for the anime, and now we're gonna go ahead and switch over to the manga. We start off the manga in the Shinigami world where the others are noticing Ryuk being gone. Light's taking a break from being Kira, and it shows how Light sees Kira as a different person. Light's sister also asks for help with homework in this book instead of earlier on. We also get a nice little meat beat joke, which actually might not be a joke since Light wasn't using the magazine to cover up using the Death Note or anything. I mean, technically, he did read articles about Kira, but I don't know. Light also sets up the hidden drawer in this book. In the manga, we also follow Light as he buys the supplies for the drawer. After setting the drawer up, Light says it's better to have a house fire instead of a death penalty. And he also says things along the lines of, if my family catches me using the Death Note, Kira will have to kill them, which goes to further show it's almost like a split personality. Generally, the art in the manga is quite beautiful, but especially when Ryuk is telling Light about the eyes, it's just so great, and honestly better than what they show in the anime. In the manga, after the dinner scene where Light's father is introduced, he tells his mom not to come up to his room because he's going to be cleaning it. His mom notes that that's weird because he's been cleaning his own room since high school, and also, this scene just doesn't really happen in the anime. It just goes from them eating dinner to Light in his room talking to Ryuk. This highlights the main difference between the manga and the anime. While the manga and the anime both follow the same story and hit the same story beats, the manga goes deeper into it and acts almost as a character study on Light Yagami. We get to see him hanging out with friends, being a model student, and we get to see more of his day-to-day life and interactions. We see him go from just a typical person to someone who would shut himself in his room all day and hang out with Ryuk. This means that the manga, instead of being an action mystery drama like the anime, is more of a psychological character study of Light Yagami, almost like a Twilight Zone in a way. And being a fan of the anime and having watched it several times, starting to go through the manga and read the books, it's almost like a different series. Other than that, everything else in the manga is about the same as the show. Maybe a couple words are changed here and there, but it follows the same general structure. Alright guys, so that was it for episode 2. I'm doing the outro like this because I'm fishing in Black Desert right now. Go ahead and like, subscribe, you know, episode 3 is being made. I hope we actually can have a little trust now, because I know a lot of the time I say I'm making a part 2 and it never happens, but we got the part 2 now. I'm making a part 3. I think that's about it. I don't wanna drag on too long. Shit, I gotta start work on episode 3. Shit, until next time. Later. Yes, sir. Zoom in more in post. Getting my bread up, dog. Up, dog.
Why? I don't know what to fucking do.
What's up, Epic Gamers? So it's part 3 of the Death Note series. If you haven't seen part 1, there's a little playlist. I'll have it up in the corner where you can click on it. Start from the part 1. I'm gonna keep the intro pretty short, you know. If you know, you know. Let's go ahead and get into it. We open up this episode with the aftermath of the last episode. Ray spills the beans to Light just a little bit, and then he dips.
Listen carefully. I came to Japan as part of a secret investigation, so the local police can't find out that I
understand.
Light walks away victorious.
It's obvious that he doesn't suspect me. And as for the police, I'm sure they'll treat this as just another unfortunate accident.
We see Ray returning home to his fiancée, Shoko.
The bus I was on got hijacked, if you can believe it.
A bus jacking?
Some junkie robbed a bank 2 days ago, and I guess he wanted to try taking on a bus today.
She rivals Elle on getting close to the case, but she has a lot of dumb luck.
You know, it's a little hard to believe that that was all a coincidence, don't you think?
We also get a nice exposition dump about the parents and the potential kids.
Look, darling, you and I know you used to be one of the best agents in the FBI, but now you're my fiancé, Naomi. We talked about this. You're not an agent anymore, so just leave it alone. You wouldn't get involved with the Kira case, and you wouldn't do anything dangerous. That's what you promised when we decided you'd come with me so I could meet your parents in Japan. You do remember that, don't you?
Yeah.
Anyway, once we have a few kids running around, you'll probably be so busy you'll forget you were ever an agent. Your mind will be occupied with better things, too. More importantly, tell me how I can convince your dad I'm worthy of his daughter. Kira doesn't scare me half as much as he does.
We then cut to Light and Ryuk back at Light's house where he is making his next moves.
I'm gonna wait 1 week before writing his name. I'll write his name in here once I've given them time to investigate more people with ties to the police. It'll be less obvious that way. I think I'll use some of those inmates I've been keeping alive to play around with L a little more.
L gets another clue from Watari about another suicide note left behind.
Another victim. This one left what appears to be a suicide note.
L, do you know? Gods of death. Is he trying to tell us that gods of death exist?
We then cut to a train station a few days later.
This place is crawling with humans. Are you gonna do it here?
Light's catching Ryuk and the audience up to date on some of the stuff he's learned about the Death Note.
Experiments?
Yeah. For example, if I write a cause of death and the circumstances leading up to it, I can add a name afterwards and it'll still happen.
Light then makes his grand move on Ray Penber.
Mr. Ray Penber, turn around and you're dead. I am Kira.
After demonstrating his power, Light gives Ray a transmitter and then gives him further instructions from the transmitter.
First, take the transceiver out of the envelope, then put the earpiece in and await my instructions.
A transceiver? This thing looks like a toy.
Whenever Light is saying that he has hostages, using the girl is just a guess, but Ray falls into his trap, giving Light the perfect ammunition to use.
I'm sure you care more about your loved ones than any of these people here. Imagine how you'd feel if one of them was killed just because you refused to cooperate. I think you should consider them the real hostages at the moment.
How do you know about her?
He then instructs Ray to fill out the paperwork he gave him.
Now, one by one, you're going to look at each photo and then write that agent's name in the space provided. You're going to do this for each agent.
Ray is then told to keep riding the train.
You're going to stay in your seat and ride the train for at least another 30 minutes. When you are absolutely certain that nobody will notice you leaving without the envelope, you can get off the train.
When he gets off, that's when he has a heart attack. In his last moments, Ray sees that Light is Kira.
Light Yagami!
Farewell, Ray Penber.
We then get a breakdown of what happened.
Ray Penber wrote all of those names on pages taken from the Death Note. As for Penber's boss, he died of a heart attack after sending all of his agents a file. And the other 11 investigators? They all died of heart attacks after receiving the same file.
We see L getting a call from the FBI director where the director informs L about what happened and pulls out.
All of our agents in Japan are dead.
I can only assume that Kira is behind this. It's already decided. We're calling off our investigation.
L then gets a call from the chief of police where he is upset about being investigated by the FBI without knowing it.
L, I just got off the phone with the director of the FBI. According to him, it seems that you arranged for the FBI to come to Japan and investigate everyone here associated with the task force. So how do you explain this? Are we now suspects in our own investigation?
We then cut to see Shoko crying, hearing the news about Ray's death.
No, he was murdered by Kira.
Light's father breaks the news to his family about how he's on the Kira case and the recent deaths of the FBI agents.
I'm sure you've heard of this Kira investigation. Well, I'm currently in charge of it.
What? Are you serious?
His family begs him to quit, but Light stands up and promises to execute Kira if his father is hurt.
Dad, you should quit too. I don't want you to die. What if he gets you?
That's right. Your life is so much more important than some job.
I think it's honorable of you, Dad. I'm proud to be able to call you my father. And if anything should ever happen to you, I'm going to find Kira and make sure he gets executed.
We then cut to the police station where the chief is advising only the dedicated to stay.
If anyone wants to leave this investigation, now is the time. You won't be demoted if you choose not to stay. You have my word. You have to be willing to fight against him, even if that means making the ultimate sacrifice. That is all.
We see Shoko chasing leads and getting information about Ray's death.
There's no doubt about it. I remember him because he told us to get down, but I don't really remember any of the other passengers.
We then see the final 6 detectives staying on the case.
5 men, huh? Well, 6, including myself.
The police team asks to meet L if they are really to trust him and work with him.
L just said that he's decided to trust us now. But honestly, what reason do we have to trust him?
If you truly meant what you said about trusting the 6 of us, could you come here so we can all meet in person?
L then gives them the information for a meeting. The police force are skeptical, but Chief Yagami breaks down why L conducted himself in the way he did to get to this point.
The way L's been conducting things so far, odds are he's gonna send a stand-in or a proxy of some kind to meet us instead of coming himself. It's not like we'd ever know.
There were a number of people on the task force who distrusted L before this investigation began. And once we got started, we had detectives resigning left and right. Following that, classified information was leaked. So I'm not surprised that he didn't trust us.
We then see the police team heading up to meet the legendary L. Light then reads a promo for the next episode.
Think carefully. Was there anything I missed? And what comes next? There are endless possibilities. The real battle is only just beginning.
Episode 2. We start off the episode by getting a full reveal of L.
I am L.
This is him?
After the task force introduce themselves, L gives them lesson 1.
Bang!
What the hell was that?
If I were Kira, you'd be dead, Mr. Soichiro Yagami, chief of the NPA.
L makes them leave their phone in another room. He says it's because he doesn't like the noise, and it's really hard to tell if he's joking or not.
Please turn off all your cell phones, handhelds, and any other communication devices and leave them on the table right there.
I realize he's been cautious from the very beginning, but I still can't tell if he trusts us or not.
No, I just find them distracting. I can't stand it when people's cell phones are ringing while I'm trying to talk.
We learn that Kira is childish and hates to lose, and L comes to this conclusion because L is childish and hates to lose.
Kira is childish and he hates losing.
But how do you...
Just what do you mean?
Well, I'm also childish and I hate to lose. That's how I know.
Ryuzaki, would you mind being a little more specific for us?
We then get a nice demonstration on L's smooth way with words.
As soon as I said we knew he was in the Kanto region, in defiance, he made sure his next victims came from within Japan, as if to say, and what are you gonna do about it? Now, what do you think would happen if we tried to use media restrictions to hide criminals from someone like that? I'm holding the whole world hostage, so who's it gonna be? I'm not the evil one here, but all those who oppose me by hiding criminals, you are truly evil. That's exactly how Kira thinks.
L breaks down their next step, and he also shares his thoughts on Kira.
How about something like this? Death of FBI agents infuriates the U.S. Latest killings anger the international policing community. Nations agree to send 1,500 investigators to Japan. Psychologically, you'll start to feel cornered, and that will cause him to take some kind of drastic action.
That's interesting.
Kira works alone. He had access to all our classified information. We already know that much. Please keep that in mind and listen carefully to what I have to say next. He runs using prison inmates, Kira have millions of actions before they die. In other words, during only 5 days, Kira can believe the FBI's presence obviously felt threatened. We didn't know even if he was inside You need to know how much control he had before he was against police. As we all know, in some cases, so our knowledge of these 23 individuals died of heart attacks. But these victims were different from Kira's starts. They were all alleged criminals, like justice, and stations, so he was speaking their innocence. That's true. What is innocence? If Kira hadn't been these criminals, he killed the people, so he killed the people, so he felt the equals were actually used. I'm sure he probably needed a few. He waited 8 days so the FBI could investigate our suspects, trying to time on the internet. I suspect Kira had been reinvestigated by 2014 and not December, if I haven't.
After this, L gives the task force some files to look over.
These are files provided by the FBI, and they contain additional information you might find useful.
We see how determined L is to win.
Does the fact that you've shown us your face mean that you've lost? By just being here, are you admitting defeat to Kira?
That's right. By showing my face to you now, and by sacrificing the lives of 12 FBI agents, I have lost the battle. But I'm not gonna lose the war.
We cut to Light, who is starting to get paranoid about someone finding him out.
I'll be fine. I haven't missed anything. The biggest risk I've taken so far was that bus jacking incident. but they'll never be able to connect it with Kira.
Light then volunteers to take some clothes to his dad's to gather intel.
Your father's been pulling overnighters with no change of clothes, so you're going to bring these to him.
Why don't I go? I could use a break.
Thanks, Light. I owe you one next time.
We also learn that Light carries a piece of the Death Note with him like a blicky.
Oh, you're bringing a page. Planning to kill someone?
I got that thing on me. I got that stick. I got that tool. I'm packing.
We see Shoko slowly putting together clues and figuring out the circumstances of Rei's death.
Rei said that he was planning to go to Shinjuku. Same day, 4 people died of heart attacks in the Shinjuku area. There's no way it was a coincidence. Kira can kill in other ways. It doesn't have to be a heart attack.
Light gets to the headquarters, but nobody from the task force is there.
There is no one at task force headquarters right now.
Shoko is there asking to talk to the task force with information about Kira.
I have information relating to the Kira investigation.
The Kira investigation?
We then see Light uses Riz to finesse Shoko.
Hi, I'm Detective Soichiro Yagami's son, Light Yagami.
Hey, I haven't seen you in a while, Light. You helped solve the insurance fraud murder investigation sometime last year. But hey, no one remembers the receptionist, do they?
My father is actually in charge of the Kira investigation. If you'd like, I could pass your message on to him. I feel like I can trust her. You can almost see it in her eyes. She's a wise and careful person.
Light strikes up some small talk to learn more about Shoko.
We've been talking and I just realized I don't even know your name. My name is Light Yagami. You'll have to trust my father and I, which I hope won't be too difficult for you.
Light learns that Shoko thinks she knows quite a bit.
Kira's able to control their actions before he kills them, but there's more to it. If my analysis so far is correct, Kira can kill in a number of ways, not just with a heart attack.
She knows? Who is this woman?
Light then learns that he's talking to Rei's fiancé.
You see, he was also my fiancé. While he was working, he got caught up in a bus jacking, and I have reason to believe that he met Kira on that bus.
Rei Penber.
Shoko tells Light about why she thinks Kira was on the bus that got jacked and that he can control the things around the people's death.
So, what makes you think he met Kira on that bus?
Because 8 days after that bus was hijacked, he died along with the other FBI investigators. The same man had attempted to rob a bank 2 days before he hijacked that bus. Then he dies in an accident, just like that. I mean, really, what are the odds?
Light tries to put her off his trail, but Shoko isn't really having it.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I think that's a bit of a leap of faith.
There's no other way of looking at it. If Kira was controlling the hijacker, chances are he killed him too.
I still don't see it.
As Shoko keeps talking, we learn just how close she is to solving the whole case.
The operation was undertaken secretly without the NPA's knowledge. He wasn't allowed to show his ID. I think whoever saw his ID that day is responsible for the deaths of all the agents.
Unbelievable.
Light narrowly avoids getting caught for now.
That was close. This woman. If she'd spoken to the police before I met her. But it seems there's a god on my side after all.
That wraps it up for the anime, so now we're gonna hop into the manga. So in the manga, we get to see more of the aftermath of the crash, where Light's date wants to go back to Spaceland, or at least just leave the area because she doesn't fuck with the police, and Ryuk gets cancelled on Twitter. Usually the manga is more intricate with its dialogue, but in both the anime and the manga, Rei and Shoko's relationship is just really forced, and it's very much an exposition dump in both medias. When Ryuk is asking Light if he's writing Rei's name down, Light says he's gonna wait a week, but then he says he's gonna write down another prisoner to keep L company. In the hidden note Light leaves for L through the suicide notes of the prisoners, Shinigami is replaced with Reapers. I'm not sure what this represents, but you know, I noticed it, so it must be something. In the manga, the chief of police hears about the FBI agents first, and Watari calls L to tell him, which I prefer this because in the anime, L gets back-to-back calls, and the timing seems a bit off, and it's just kind of awkward delivery. This seems more natural. I glossed over it when watching the anime since I've already seen the anime a few times, but Light's plan of using the Death Note to do what he did with Rei was not only a 5D chess move, but also reminded me of like those cursed email like chain mails, but like this one actually worked. Also, I'll have to double check this, but in the manga, when Rei tells Shoko Japan is becoming violent, she gives him a side eye, and it's almost like this is what tipped her off, since she's from Japan, and for the most part, Japan is peaceful. In the manga, the FBI director really grills L and lays it on him how upset he is with losing innocent lives, and when he tells L that he's letting the police know, it comes off more like a middle finger and less like a defeated man. We also see L saying he should have been watching the agents as well as the prisoners. We see Light get small leads on L and they really just trade the podium in the anime, but here we see L taking an L and how he processes that loss. Except for some small dialogue changes, the train scene plays out pretty much like in the anime. It shows what parts the anime likes to focus on, almost directly adapting some parts, but glazing over smaller moments. In the manga, we get to see the conversation Rei has to get the files for Kira. We get to hear the other agent question Rei and the excuses Rei uses. In the manga, Light really plays into the fiancé angle, holding someone he doesn't know hostage when they've never met. In the manga, Rei's last words are just Light Yagami and they exchange a look. It's simple, but by being so simple, it packs quite a punch. I'll need to double check, but in the manga we see more of L's thought process. In the manga, we also get a nice little scene of the Yagami family as they're sitting around the table talking about what's on TV. This is one of the smaller moments the anime glosses over to spend more time on the bigger moments. These smaller moments aren't important to progressing the story, but they add more character moments that give us more time with the many people involved in this grand story. In the manga, whenever the police force are questioning L and asking to meet up with him, they go a lot deeper into it, theory crafting, going as far as saying that L might be Kira. While Light is starting to get paranoid over leaving evidence, Ryuka's in the back watching a boxing match. This isn't really important or anything, but I thought it was funny. When talking to the police force, L mentions he believes Kira is using something supernatural to kill, but not something supernatural to get the information. At this point in the story, it's around January, so we see a nice snowfall over the city that we don't really get in the anime. Oh, god damn it. There's a lot of Shoko hate in this one. I already have enough to talk about for this episode, and I don't like the Shoko arc, so long story short, the same shit happens. No character is developed, Rei's super smart fiancé are introductionally about to track on case. When talking, she hasn't really had any time to really care for Shoko arc, so for the manga to make so much tension for unlike L, she has no build it up, you don't spend any time with case, which is not radiating. Her story arc would be amazing, and it was given more time to being the eventual widow of Rei. The one nice thing is the payoff of finding out Shoko is Rei's fiancé hits harder in the manga because of how heavily Light played into that angle when talking to Rei. That about wraps it up for part 3. Sorry this one was a bit later than I wanted it to, but I've been busy applying for college classes and I've been organizing concerts and it's just kind of been a hectic couple of weeks. So some of the upcoming content, I have a couple of concerts. I have The Hangover Part 3 hosted by CFB. I have that I have to post. I have the concert that I just got done doing. I also have some more like just kind of casual content, kind of like the update vlog, just me hanging out. I have some more of that coming out. I have another movie I'm wanting to talk about. I have another animated show series I'm wanting to talk about besides Death Note. So yeah, a lot of content planned, a lot of good content coming out in the future. It's just gonna be kind of slow coming out, but it is gonna be coming out. Anyway, that's enough for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Later. What's up, Epic Gamers? So this is part 4 to an ongoing series. If you haven't seen any of the other parts, I have a playlist on my channel. You can also click up in the corner. If you have seen the other parts, I'm just going to get right into it. We opened this episode where we picked up last time with Light following Shoko. Light realizes that he can't let Shoko go, so we ask who all she has talked to.
So, have you told anyone else about this?
No, you're the first person I've told.
You're lucky, but how will you get rid of her?
Light then starts writing down notes on the case, when really he's writing down Shoko's name on the death note. We cut back to the task force where El comes to the conclusion that Kira isn't with them. El then gets a phone call from Watari. We go back to Light and Shoko, where Shoko is still going to report her information to the police.
If it's all the same, I think I'd like to report it myself. And after talking to you, I've decided that it would be best to do it as soon as possible.
Light isn't panicking though because he wrote her name in the death note. Ryuk's laugh gives away the fact that Shoko used a fake name.
I remember thinking it was bizarre how he laughed when I asked for her name. In fact, he's reacted the same way every time her name comes up. An alias.
We go back to the task force where we're formally introduced to Watari. Watari passes out new police badges to protect the task force. They have fake names and fake ranks on them. L gives them the college student using a fake ID talk with the team.
Remember, anytime you're in a situation where you have to give out your name to a stranger, make sure to use the name from your fake ID, understood? Careful not to take them out while in the presence of other police officers. I'm sure I don't need to tell you.
They also get some Gucci belts with transmitters and life alerts. We see Light starting to shit his pants while he tries to figure out what to do with Shoko.
If this phone rings, it's all over for me. What am I gonna do? This is crazy. All I have to do is turn my cell phone off.
We hear Light making a plan to find out Shoko's real name.
Only 3 minutes left until she reaches the station. All right.
Ryuk brings up the ideal, but Light doesn't take it. Shoko asks Light to leave her alone if he doesn't have any more business at the police station.
Do you still have business at the police station then? I'd like to go there by myself, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem.
Shoko and Light part ways, and Light is not having it his way. Light tries one last time to get Shoko's real name. He tells Shoko that nobody was there because they started to use fake names and cover themselves to avoid another pen burst situation. Shoko questions how Light knows so much about the operation, and this is when Light says that he's on the force and makes up a backstory.
Despite the fact that I'm a high school student, he brought me on board to help out with the investigation. After all, I've helped them solve cases in the past.
Shoko is still determined to go to the task force herself. We cut back to the task force where they're talking about how nobody's at the station right now. Light is still trying desperately to stop Shoko from going to the station. This is when we learn that Shoko used to work with L and she was a top agent in the FBI.
Although the only contact I've had with him was following orders through a computer, he might remember who I am. You see, I worked under him in a case in the US about 2 years ago.
Using this information, Light strokes Shoko's ego and tells her he wants to learn from her. This gets Shoko talking, and we get the only good thing Shoko has done in the series when she tells Light that he reminds her of L.
I'll be honest with you. It's because you remind me of L. There's something about you that's just like him.
Light then offers Shoko a spot on the task force, the requirement being a valid form of ID. Light closes the deal and makes Shoko commit to joining the force. Ryuk loses his shit at seeing Light play this game. Shoko reveals that she used a fake name and provides Light with her Japanese ID. A snowfall takes over the city, and this makes Azuwa take out his umbrella and not noticing Light or Shoko. Light has won, and when Shoko asks why he's been checking his watch, Light reveals that he is Kira.
So, if you don't mind my asking, why do you keep checking your watch?
Oh, well, because I'm Kira.
We get a beautiful scene where Shoko is walking away to her death and Light taunts her.
My father's cell phone might be available now. Do you want to see if you can talk to him?
No, thank you. I have nothing to say to him.
As Shoko walks to her death, we see a golden set of stairs leading up to a noose, which is a great callback to when Light said that when he writes down suicide, they always hang themselves. We open with the task force looking over the footage from the train station. Watari passes snacks out to the class. L picks up on the fact that Ray entered with an envelope but didn't have one with him when he died. L thinks Kira might have been on the train, but this is purely speculation.
Wouldn't it be interesting if Kira was on that train?
That's impossible.
I admit I find it hard to believe as well.
We cut back to Light, who is stocking up on Death Note kills so he has a cushion in case something happens. L hears about how Shoko went missing and he thinks that she was following up on a lead with Kira. Because of this, L decides to reactivate surveillance on the Yagami family.
Everyone, at this point I'd like to focus our investigation on only those people who Ray Pember was tailing. Deputy Director Kitamura, along with Detective Superintendent Yagami and their families.
We see Light covering his tracks and making hidden compartments. Chief Yagami gives L the green light on installing toilet cameras.
I don't want any blind spots in the house, and that includes the bathroom.
Thank you very much. That was my intention.
Light returns home and nobody is there. When Light gets to his room, he knows that somebody's been in the house. We see Elle and Chief Yagami watching Light through the surveillance cameras. After leaving the house and making sure his clothes aren't bugged, Light tells Ryuk about the house being bugged. Light uses Ryuk's apple addiction to scout out all of the cameras. We've also reached the point of the story where Ryuk is turning into more of a companion and not just a god of death.
If you're lucky, you might find a blind spot where you can eat them without being seen. All right, let's go.
Yeah, a camera search.
I really can't count on you, can I?
You got that right. How's it going? I don't think anyone else is in the house right now. Do you want to play some video games? Come on, it's been a while.
I don't need to see that.
I know.
Light is in his room looking at some spicy magazines, Light's father being disappointed in his son's tastes. The family is eating dinner and Sayu's watching soap operas. This is when Elle broadcasts a fake message saying that 1,500 new investigators are coming into Japan. Light, finding this as an insult, mocks the idea right in front of Elle.
The ICPO sure is stupid.
Huh?
Ryuk tells Light about all the camera locations, and we get one of the most iconic scenes of the show, where Light is writing names in the Death Note while watching a mini TV hidden in a bag of chips.
I'll take a potato chip and eat it.
The plan is for Kira to kill while Light is doing homework and Elle to watch the whole thing, theoretically clearing his name. The next day is trash day, and this is when Light throws away the mini TV and uncharacteristically gives his mom some sass. This episode ends with the trash truck leaving with the evidence.
I can't say for sure whether you're extremely generous or just a spoiled brat. But didn't that mini LCD TV cost you $400?
In the manga, we see Light thinking about the cameras and how they wouldn't be able to read any lips or see anything suspicious in the police station. I don't know if it's just the version that I'm getting screenshots from, but we get a translation of what Light wrote in the Death Note, which, if Google's to be trusted, is more or less accurate. When Light realizes the name Shoko gave him was fake, he thinks back to how he killed Rei and how Shoko would be hesitant to give her actual name. Also, I don't know if I'm just grabbing a bootleg translation or what, but Light drops his shit. In the manga, we see Light is worried about getting a phone call, and it plays more into him starting to slip under pressure, when in the show it's more of a sunglasses on top of the head situation. I'm pretty sure the version I'm using to grab screenshots is a bootleg. When Light tells Shoko he's on the task force, Shoko tells Light that since he's on the force, she's already told him everything that she needs to tell Elle. When in the anime, Shoko is stubborn and still wanting to go to the station. I prefer how this scene plays out in the anime with the quietness and slow deliveries of the line. In the manga, it's more of a person who just got killed by Kira says what kind of thing. Also, with the last panel of the manga compared to the last shot of the show, in the show, we get to see Shoko walking away into a metaphorical noose, when in the manga, she just walks off into the sunset. In the manga, we get a whole scene with Azuwa on the station answering calls. This isn't in the anime at all and follows someone calling thinking they're Kira. After hanging up, Azuwa thinks about how more and more people are thinking they're Kira because they wish for other people to die, and then they do. This shows the more outward effects of the Kira situation, people second-guessing themselves and mass hysteria starting to break out. When the task force is looking over the tapes, they look at more than just Rei's death. They also look at footage from a department store and a street corner. We also get a more detailed breakdown from Elle on Rei's death. In the show, it's mainly just the file and the train time. Here we see Elle breaking down when he got sent the file, and Elle theorizing about how Rei was under control of Kira when he was on the train, which I'm pretty sure is wrong. Light was controlling Rei, but he was using his words to influence his action, not the Death Note. When Light is covering his tracks, we hear about Shoko, but we also hear about him talk about the date he took with him when the bus jacking happened, telling her to keep it a secret because he wanted it to be a special memory. When Elle gets the call about Shoko, it's her father calling in. I'm not sure if we really find out who it is in the anime, but we also hear about how he tried calling her phone and how she didn't check back into her hotel room. In both the anime and the manga, Light walks home with some friends, but in the anime we only hear them and it's a quick see you later. In the manga, we see Light walking with them, and Light is telling them about how Kira is a force of good. When Elle is watching Light through the cameras, Elle comments on the paper in the door and says that besides that it's a normal room. Even though Light is more of an ass in the manga, when he's making a deal with Ryuk to find the cameras, Light's more generous than in the anime. In the anime, it's find the cameras or you're up shit creek, but in the manga, Light Light offers to make blind spots if he can. While Ryuk in the anime is a great companion, Ryuk in the manga is just a straight up vibe. We also get an oddly charming panel of Light and Ryuk talking about potato chips. Alright, and that wraps up this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Also, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. You can get behind the scenes insights on different projects that I'm working on. You guys really went off on that Batman Beyond video, so if you'd want to see more Batman Beyond content, just let me know down below and I can do that. I think the next video I'm going to do is going to be covering the Hellboy animated movie Blood and Iron. Anyway, that's it for this video. Until next time, later. Hey, what's up? This is part 5 in my series going over the differences in the Death Note anime and manga. If you haven't seen any of the other episodes, I have a playlist on my channel and you can click up in the corner to watch it now. In the last episode, we saw the end of Shoko. In this episode, we see the beginning of Light and L interacting more directly. This is also when the show started to get good, so I'm wondering if the manga will follow suit or if the show just started to get good because they followed the manga more directly. Getting into the anime, we open this episode with Light and Ryuk walking and talking about the investigation and surveillance. They take a trip to a park and Light gets Ryuk some apples and Ryuk spoils the whole series.
You know, I might actually write your name in my death note and kill you, just like that.
After Light returns to his house, he starts writing down names in the death note, but Light blew the budget with the mini TV trick, so he just remembers the identities of the criminals and then writes their names down while he's taking a walk. We cut to the task force where L is calling off the video surveillance, but is still sure there's a 5% chance that Kira was in one of the houses being surveyed.
I only said that we were unable to reveal anything suspicious based on our surveillance. It could mean he was able to continue killing without doing anything outwardly suspicious.
This leads Elle to think about how if Kira was among the houses surveyed, he's either lost so much humanity that he isn't affected by taking lives, or Kira thinks of himself as a god and doing the Lord's work to clean the streets.
If he is, we have to assume that his psyche has reached godlike proportions, punishing evildoers without the slightest change of expression.
Getting back to Light, we hear Ryuk tell Light that all the cameras are gone, and Light takes this moment to plan his next move.
Chances are my father is working with him, or under him anyway. If that's the case, I'll have to use my father to find out L's true identity, and I'll eliminate him.
With the investigation calming down and Light about to get into university, the future's looking promising until we see a familiar face while Light's taking the tests. This reveal is phenomenal, and even though Light doesn't know that he's looking at L, he knows that he's seeing someone he should keep an eye on. We get another glimpse into the Shinigami realm, where they're talking about all the recent traffic to the human realm, and more Shinigami are getting curious and wanting to see what's going on.
What's he thinking? Seriously? He's a disgrace to the pride of the Shinigami. No, I'm talking about the human who's keeping Ryuk.
We cut back to Light, who's going on stage to give his speech, and this is complicated when L is also called up to give a speech. While L is giving a speech, we hear crowd reactions and see a great bit of visual comedy when we see that the paper L's reading off of is blank.
Coming to the Toho entrance ceremony dressed like that? Unbelievable. Either he's crazy or he's just toying with us.
Representative Hideki Ryuk.
This all comes to a point when L reveals to Light who he is.
I want to tell you I'm L.
What? There's no way.
This destroys any confidence Light had about the investigation and backs Light into another corner. Light can't do anything with L. Using the name of a celebrity and also knowing his father and other task force agents, there'd be too many red flags raised if L were to die or if the celebrity whose name he's using dies. We see Light make his way home in silence, and after sitting down in his room, Light loses his shit and throws a fit while Ryuk, the actual factual god of death, sits there uncomfortably trying to calm Light down.
Damn it! He got me! What do you mean? Damn, L!
Light is so lost in the sauce at this point in the story that even Ryuk gets uncomfortable when listening to Light's power-drunk ramblings.
If it's my friendship you want, I'll gladly accept it. In time, I'll earn your trust. And once you've told me what I want to know, there'll be no point keeping you alive.
This scene is the closest the anime has gotten to showing Light as a real scary guy. Not like he's gonna jump out and steal your soul or kidnap your grandma, but like he's gonna tell you how you're always nice to him and how you should leave before things get ugly.
Fuck you too!
This episode starts off with Light and Elle on the tennis court playing a strategic game of chess, trying to use the game to feel each other out. We learn that Light used to play tennis, but Elle is no slouch as the competition starts.
15 love.
This is interrupted when Chief Yagami is talked to by a higher-up in a suit about the investigation, how the public is asking for answers. Chief Yagami isn't having it his way, and he lets the hog out all over this guy and tells the higher-up that Elle is risking his life right now.
Right now, even as we speak, he's risking his life.
While Light and Elle are playing, we hear their thought process and see a crowd start to form.
While it's true that Kira hates losing, it's also true that most people would rather win than lose. It's human nature. Is he going to think that I'm Kira if I go for the win?
While this episode doesn't have ground-shattering reveals or significant plot development, what it does give us is character development, and it lets us see how these two are going to interact when put in such close proximity. Light goes for the win, and we're left wondering what it all means, with both parties going between a friendly game and a psychological exam. After the game, Light and Elle go to a cafe where Elle gives Light a test. The test is about suicide notes left by victims of Kira.
You can take as long as you want to look them over. Please let me know what you think.
Very interesting.
This test is multi-layered, with Light knowing the answer, but evidence numbers and multiple answers leaves Light wondering what he should say.
If I ignored this fact and was still able to come up with the phrase, Elle, do you know, gods of death love apples, what would that mean?
After giving the correct answer first, Light then backpedals and says that there's other answers and print numbers on the back. This is when Elle throws Light for a loop and provides another note, telling Light how he shouldn't assume there were only 3 notes and not 4.
But seeing as I only had 3 photographs to work with, my deduction was perfect.
No, it wasn't. The truth is, there were 4 of them. If you'd figured that out, it would have been perfect.
Elle is still impressed and wants Light to join the task force because either way Elle wins, with Light giving them his insight and intelligence, or Kira being backed into a controlled corner.
If I cooperate with you, there's a chance I can help the investigation to move forward. And if I'm Kira, I might reveal myself. In other words, whether I'm Kira or not, you stand to gain either way.
Through Light's continuous talking and slipping up, Elle's suspicion raises from 3% to 7%. But this is all interrupted when both Light and Elle get a phone call informing them that Chief Yagami has just had a heart attack.
Light, your father is...
Light, it's your... My father. He had a heart attack.
This is a fake out kinda, with the heart attack being stress and not Kira. This puts Light, Elle, and Chief Yagami all in the same room, where Chief Yagami confirms for Light that Elle is who he says he is. Light gets some heat off him, with Light wanting to join the task force and talking to his father about how they want each other to be safe.
Besides, don't you remember my promise? That if something ever happened to you, I would find Kira and make sure he gets executed.
This is when we see Chief Yagami directly challenging Kira's point of view and calling his abilities a curse without even knowing that Kira is not only standing over him, but is also his own son.
What is truly evil is the power to kill people. And any person who has come to possess this kind of power is cursed.
After Elle and Light are shuffled out of the hospital, Light asks Elle how he could clear his name and remove Elle's suspicion.
Put yourself in my position. How do you think it feels to be accused of being Kira?
It was one of the worst feelings ever.
Light suggests total isolation and observation to prove his innocence, but Elle questions if someone who is innocent would go to such lengths.
Would any normal person be willing to go to such extreme measures to clear their name? That's no good. I can't do anything that would deprive you of basic human rights.
Oh, one more thing.
You fucking with a psycho, bitch!
And this ends with Elle riding off into the moon set in a Benz truck and Light walking home talking to Ryuk.
I never once felt cursed since I picked up the Death Note. In fact, the thought never even crossed my mind. I'm happier than I've ever been, all thanks to this power.
Light tells Ryuk about how he feels the opposite of curse since he had the Death Note, and Ryuk tells Light about the misfortune that often follows the notebook.
Normally, humans who come into contact with a Shinigami have nothing but misfortune.
That's That's interesting.
This is when we cut to a newsroom and we get a teaser for the next episode with a package containing notes and tapes that were supposedly sent by Kira.
A message to the world from Kira. If you do not broadcast these tapes, I will kill your company's board of directors one by one. Who wouldn't air these?
If you know, you know, but if you don't, then make sure to come back when I post the next video in this series, because this show's about to get really good. It's about to start its climb to the peak before taking a sharp nosedive and then ending strong with the last 2 episodes. In the manga, when Light is writing down names for later, he thinks back to the mini TV and he mentions how he had to have it muted and he couldn't see the screen all the way, and that's why he ended up killing minor criminals instead of his usual pickings. When Elle is talking about stopping surveillance, we hear about how nobody from either family was on the security tapes from Ray's death, and when Elle is talking about Kira still being a member of the family, it's more like Kira didn't slip up and that's why they didn't catch anybody. Where in the anime it's just a percentage drop and Kira slipping up is just one of a couple of possibilities. When Elle is thinking about the type of person Kira could be, he spends more time on the Kira actually being a god angle, questioning what they did to anger the gods. The task force also talk about doing in-person investigations and the dangers associated with them, and I prefer the anime where we see the task force stuck before getting the reveal of Elle during the test. While they don't outright say what Elle is about to do, they basically spoil the surprise before you even know it's a surprise. While the scene where Light and Elle are taking the test is better in the anime, I mean, pictures are great, but motion and sound add 2 dimensions. It's still a great scene in the manga, which is exactly the same as in the anime. The opening to the next chapter has a nice twist on the classic Spider-Man line, and it just makes me think about the batshit crazy Japanese Spider-Man. When Light and Elle are going on stage to give their speeches, we hear about a board of counselors that would assess students, and the one with the overall better grades in all subjects would be the representative, breaking any ties that would come from the test. This line adds so much to Elle using his connections to get placed there with Light. While in the show we can assume it's the same situation, we don't really get an answer one way or the other. Both are possible when dealing with Elle. He has the connections to make it happen, but he also has the brain to pass the test. We also don't get to see that Elle's paper is blank or hear the different diversity between Light's passionate cookie cutter and Elle's complete disregard. I won't hold it against the manga because there's only so much you can do with art and text, and I would hope the anime would do better when it has motion and sound. When we see Light breaking down in his room, he tells us how even though he can control the actions of a person before they die, he can't make someone written in the death note kill someone who isn't written in the death note. The ending shot with Light sitting in the chair thinking over his next move uses quite striking language, with Light really turning into the man who wanted to watch the world burn. While Light and Elle are playing tennis, we get a whole scene between 2 characters where they talk about Light and Elle and how they're using the tennis court even though they're not in the club. We also get a better idea of why Elle wanted to play tennis, with him talking about getting Akira to say something while they were together. Light realizes Elle's trying to get him to slip up by making Light focus more on the tennis game and less on the social game of hiding his identity. Also, while Chief Yagami is talking to the director, we learn that Elle has done the same thing he did with Light to the director's daughter, and Chief Yagami tells the director that his son is the only suspect before promptly asking the director to forget what he heard and leave the task force alone. The scene with Chief Yagami and the director ends the same way, with the chief saying that Elle is risking his life before cutting back to Elle, but with this scene taking place after the tennis game, it cuts to them in the cafe. I like how it happens in the anime because it's funnier, but I like how it happens in the manga because it's paced better. We also get to see Light flipping the script on Elle, telling him that he doesn't think Elle is actually Elle, and they have a little back and forth before getting into the suicide note puzzle. Elle also gives Light the list of FBI agents when he's being tested, and after Light asks what the list is for, Elle lets him in on the fact that there was the name and face of all the agents on the list, and it's highly likely that Kira used the list when taking out the agents. We also get some of the news station in between the cafe and the hospital, and while there's more here with them talking about how they get, or rather make, their stories, I prefer how it is in the anime, with it coming in at the end, getting the viewer excited for the next episode. While Light, Chief Yagami, and Elle are talking, Elle talks about how all the incoming investigators were killed, but no Japanese investigators were killed, which could mean that Kira's getting his inside information from someone like a family member. They also talk about how Shoko went missing, and she was the only person related to the agents that had something suspicious happen to them. We also get a great scene of Light talking about Kira, and how Kira would most likely be a middle school to high school age student from a wealthy family, ending on an ignorant middle schooler who has access to a computer, which is someone we've all ran into at one point or another. mother. Light's father also talks about how it couldn't be Sayu because she'd break down and cry if she found out she had the ability to kill. And Ryuk gets a jab in at Light, saying he wonders why Light's father said his sister and not Light. We end this chapter the same way we ended the episode, with the news team getting the tapes from Kira. Boy, oh boy, am I excited to get into the next few episodes. I remember this being my favorite part of the series, and with how much I'm loving the manga, I'm curious to see what changes they make. If I had to guess, it'll be some swag shit. With how the manga uses language to make the character of Light more unhinged and psychotic, I'm excited to see how he interacts with the new character coming up. Anyway, I hope the wait was worth it, because this series is about to get good, and you should make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on so you can see the next episode when it comes out. Also, check out my videos going over Batman. I have a few going over various episodes from various series, from the animated series to beyond. I also co-host a podcast with Arnie King called Henny for Your Thoughts, and if you want to hear my opinions about things I don't cover on the channel, you should go ahead and check that out. Anyway, I'll catch you on the flip side. Until next time, later.
What in fuck's name are you doing?
Hey, what's up? This is part 6 of my series going over the Death Note anime and manga and finding the differences between the two. If you haven't seen any of the other parts, I have a playlist on my channel and you can also find it up in the corner. In the last episode, we got to see L and Light meeting in person, playing a game of tennis and having some coffee. At the end, we got a teaser that Kira sent tapes into a TV station, and let me tell you, where they fell short with Shoko, they make up for with this arc. I don't want to waste any more time, so let's get right into it. We start this episode with Light looking over the sunrise and the task force talking about Shoko's disappearance and the lack of leads.
We're talking about someone who's been missing for 4 months already. Chances are she's probably dead.
If you're right about that, I find it odd that we haven't found her body yet.
This is interrupted when Watari comes in and tells them to turn on the news. This is when we get the payoff to the teaser from the last episode and the news team starts to play one of the tapes.
Kira has instructed us to air the second tape today at exactly 5:59 p.m., and we do intend to comply with his demands.
The tape starts with Kira showing his abilities by killing several people on live TV, and L tries to get the broadcast to stop.
Stop this broadcast! We can't let him finish!
Get Sakura TV on the line!
Nobody at the station is picking up their phones, so Ukita rushes to the station to get the broadcast to stop. We then cut to Sancho turning off the TV in the hospital, and Chief Yagami asks for it to be turned back on since he's the lead investigator.
Darling, this can't be good for your health. Please, you have to rest.
Sachiko.
We cut back to Ukita, who's at the station, but the guard isn't letting him in, and before he can shoot the glass, Ukita has a heart attack. Even though he couldn't reach his life alert, the team still sees it on the TV, and they go into panic mode.
You told us that Kira couldn't kill without a name! So how could this happen? The aliases and fake police IDs were worthless. What are we gonna do, El?
While Aizawa thinks Kira might have all their information, El deduces that Kira could just need a face at this point and he could be in the area.
Initially, I deduced that Kira needed both a name and a face to kill. But from what we've just seen, I'd say it's not entirely impossible that Kira can kill with only a face.
This puts the team at a deadlock, with not being able to go near the station, but also needing to stop the broadcast. This is when we cut back to the hospital and see that Chief Yagami is missing, and we get one of the best scenes of the entire show. After crashing through the front doors, Chief Yagami makes his way to the station director and just lets his fucking hog out.
If we stop this broadcast, he'll kill all of us.
Shut up! You're gonna be killed right here and now if you don't give those tapes to me!
What?
Chief Yagami gets a bag with the tapes and the letter, and the police start to pull up to the scene, but L calls the chief of police and tells him that his men are in danger.
If you don't take control of this situation quickly, there will be a disaster.
But Technically, we're not supposed to be involved in this case. Huh?
After this, we get a web of phone calls with Chief Yagami on one phone with L and the Chief of Police on another phone with L, where they're coordinating an exit strategy.
Mr. Yagami, listen carefully. In exactly 5 minutes, I want you to come out the front entrance.
You want me to exit through the front entrance?
After the 5-minute mark, Chief Yagami makes his way to what he thinks is his death, but then we see a wall of officers shielding the entrance and a car waiting for the chief.
Thank you. I'll drive myself.
I understand.
After Chief Yagami leaves, we hear the police making their statement on the matter, and we see the empty nest where Kira was.
You are not to remove your helmets! There you have it. The police refuse to cooperate with Kira.
After dropping off the tapes and letters, the team goes over the tapes and the letter is sent to the crime lab. This is also the point in the series where we get to see the start of Silver Fox Yagami.
These are all of the tapes in an envelope. Everything Kira sent to the station is in here.
I can't thank you enough.
I think I'd better rest for a minute. Oh.
After analyzing the tapes, Kira wants more criminals to be broadcast, with a priority for people that have assaulted or taken advantage of others. He also wants the task force and L to appear on TV and give a statement, which is an obvious trap.
He needs us to reveal our faces. That way he can kill us if the police do anything suspicious. In other words, he'll hold our lives as insurance.
The task force airs the tape for no, and we get to see Light reacting to the events that have taken place.
It looks like I've even got God on my side now. Well, I suppose it's actually a god of death.
Seems like it.
Even though it's kind of obvious that Light wasn't behind it all, it's still great at keeping you guessing, with him only showing up in the beginning and the second Kira only being revealed at the end. While Light's ecstatic that he has a follower with Shinigami eyes that hates L, he's also worried about the second Kira getting caught and besmirching the Kira name.
I can't forgive this imposter for the way he's tarnishing Kira's image with these senseless killings. Not to mention, if he slips up and gets caught, the Death Note could be discovered, and that I cannot allow.
Light decides that it's time to join the task force so he can keep an eye on the second Kira and L. We then cut to the task force where L tells the team that he thinks that there's two Kiras.
No, we should think of him more as a second Kira.
A second Kira? I don't understand. Why do you think there's a copycat?
This is because the victims were TV hosts and not criminals, so not only did the second Kira need to prove themselves, they also need to kill someone that the real Kira wouldn't get to.
Ryuzaki, if you had to put a number on it, what's the probability of a second Kira?
This time I'd say it's more than 70%.
L can also tell that it's not the real Kira because of the vibe.
I really don't like the way he operates. It's not like Kira.
Not like him?
This is when L comes to the conclusion that Light should join the task force.
Mr. Yagami, I'd like your permission to ask your son to cooperate with us on this investigation.
Chief Yagami asks if this means that Light is cleared as a suspect, and L tells him that while he isn't cleared, his deductive abilities would be a great asset. We then cut to the market where we see Misa talking to Rem, and we get the reveal of the second Kira.
I just died in your arms tonight.
We open this episode with Light on the phone with his dad, where Light's being asked to join the task force. Light is buzzing at the fact that the task force approached him and his opportunity to keep an eye on the second Kira.
All along I've been trying to find a way to get involved in the investigation, but I never thought they would actually approach me. Now I'll have access to classified information about the case.
Light is then introduced to the team and given his new fake name.
I'll have to ask that you call me Ryuzaki here.
I'm Matsui.
I'm Aihara. And I'm Asahi.
Yes, of course.
After the meet and greet, Light is asked to study the tapes from the second Kira, and we get a flashback to L telling the team not to tell Light anything because he wants to test Light's skill in deduction.
Well then, we need to ask Light Yagami to assist us. However, we cannot tell him that we're considering the possibility of a second Kira.
While it's not said, it's also fair to assume that Light's answer could increase L's suspicion that Light is Kira.
I can't see the real Kira jeopardizing such an easy opportunity to get rid of me.
While Light is watching the tapes, all I can think about is the mud on his name and the piss poor production quality, and when L asked what his thoughts on the tape were, Light realized that it was a test all along and pulls an analysis out of his ass.
This video is so mediocre, it's making me sick to my stomach. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm the real one, but this is a complete disgrace to everything Kira stands for.
With how abrupt his speech is, it leads me to think that Light was just talking about what he was thinking without having the proper time to put it through a filter.
Have you come to any conclusions?
Damn, it's a test. It's hard to say for sure, but there might be another person out there with Kira's power.
After Light passes the test, L gets into a game plan of how to respond to the second Kira. The plan is to send in a tape of their own, and L tasks Light with playing Kira and writing the script.
Huh? Me as Kira?
Yes, you're the only one I can think of who'd be able to pull something like this off.
We then get a great scene where L is proofreading the script and Light slipping in some L killing in the speech.
I think you've done an excellent job with this. However, if we don't omit the part that says you're free to kill L, then I'm gonna end up dead.
It's also a great bit of visual comedy, with the task force tape being golden and sparkly and Misa's tape being a Saw clone. While we hear the tape playing in the background, we get to see my heart melt as we pan around Misa's room.
Absolutely clear. Taking this message live is against my will. This person claiming to be me is truly sympathetic to my cause and wishes to be of some help.
After watching the tape, Misa gets her camera ready to send in a reply.
What are you planning to do?
Hello? Do you really need to ask? I'm going to reply to him, of course.
Ryozaki, we have a reply from the second Kira.
We then cut to the task force a couple days later where they're watching the tape and we get to hear Light's reaction.
If this fake had any idea what my wishes were, he'd insist that Elle appear on TV and then kill him anyway. How could you fall for something like this? Damn it.
Everything's going mediocre until Misa mentions the eyes and then Light shits a brick.
I don't think you have the eyes, but you don't have to worry. I would never try to kill you. That's a promise.
What the hell is he thinking?
Misa also mentioned Shinigami, and both Light and Elle shit their pants.
Shinigami? He's a liability. If I don't do something about him quickly...
Elle because of the reality of Shinigami, and Light because of the absolute liability he has on his hands.
Shinigami? Am I supposed to believe that? That Shinigami actually exist?
The task force calm Elle down by telling him that Shinigami don't exist, and it's only funny because Ryuka's sitting there in the corner.
Yes, that's right, Ryuzaki. Listen to yourself. Of course Shinigami don't exist.
You're probably right.
Light manages to throw the team off by suggesting that Shinigami could be a code word and not literal.
Saying we can confirm our identities by showing our Shinigami to each other probably means that they'd confirm their identities by somehow demonstrating their ability to kill.
Yes, that's it.
After Light suggests a reply, Elle says that they should just leave it up to the two Kiras and see if they can observe anything.
It could be interesting. And what would be more interesting is if Kira sends a message of his own to prevent this from happening.
We then cut to Misa, where we learn that she's a model, and we meet Rim, who tells Misa how she got her death note.
Oh, then how did I get mine?
Let's just say it has a lot to do with the fact that I'm one of the few in the Shinigami realm who knows how to kill another of my kind.
After hearing that the previous owner died, Misa asks Rim how they died, and Rim tells Misa the full story.
I learned the only way to kill a Shinigami is to make them fall in love with a human.
What a beautiful way to kill.
The story follows a Shinigami named Jealous who fell in love with a human girl and would watch her from the Shinigami realm.
It's today, isn't it? Her last day alive.
She looks so full of life. I wonder why today.
This day would be the day she died, and Jealous was watching, and Rim joined to see how she would die.
It was nighttime and she was walking alone. No one else was around. And then it happened.
We see the girl walking down an alleyway when she's interrupted by a crazy stalker with a knife.
I love you more than anyone else in the world. I'm always watching you. I want to protect you forever.
She'd never seen the man before, and of course, turned him down.
After turning the nice man down, the nice man turns into a not very nice man and tries to kill the girl, but Jealous writes the man's name down in his death note so he can save the girl's life.
Without even thinking, Jealous did something that we Shinigami must never do.
This is a real big no-no in the Shinigami realm, so Jealous dies, leaving his death note in a pile of what was not sand nor rust and disappearing. This is when we learn that the rest of Jealous's lifespan was added to the girl and that that girl was Misa.
I had no idea. All this time I thought it was luck, but it was a Shinigami who saved my life that day.
My heart then melts just a little bit more when we hear Misa thinking out loud.
But I wonder, does he know how to K-I-L-L a Shinigami?
We end this episode with Light in a cafe thinking about his next move and Misa eating a sundae doing the same.
I wonder, what kind of person are you, imposter?
I wonder, what kind of person are you, Kira?
Getting into the manga, when the team are talking about Shoko, they go into more detail, talking about how they could be wasting their time because Kira killed her. When L is watching the tapes, he thinks about the production and comments on how the font they used in the video is the same font he used for his L. In the anime, L just kinda wants the broadcast to stop, which yeah. But in the manga, we hear him say that Kira is directly manipulating the minds of the public, which adds more pressure to getting the broadcast off the air. When Chief Yagami is getting the tapes from the station, he makes a point to not only get the master tapes, but any copies the station might have. In the anime, when the team is sending off the envelope to be analyzed, it's just kind of a send it to the labs. Where in the manga they go into more detail with saliva from the stamps or fingerprints. When Light is talking to Ryuk about the second Kira, Light talks about how he can use the second Kira to kill L, but he also talks about using the second Kira as a scapegoat to shift the suspicion from himself. When the task force is talking about the public's decision to kill L rather than the chief of police, L brings up how it was the logical decision because he had taunted Kira on TV earlier in the series. And L talks about how even if he does appear on TV, Kira might not know enough about him to know it's actually L. In the manga, when the task force is talking about the new victims, L says they were reported in a woman's magazine and made an appearance on a talk show, when in the anime they were just TV personalities. I've known the destination, so I can't say if the woman's magazine is a Light spoiler or not, but it kind of feels like it is, especially when in the anime they think it's a man for a fat minute and Light doesn't even find out until later on. When L is talking about the tapes from the second Kira, he talks about the production quality and says that if the real Kira were to do something like this, he'd have a better camera and an external microphone. We also get results from the fingerprints a lot sooner in the manga. The team also comments on the fingerprints being small, most likely a child or a woman, which further hints to the identity of the second Kira. L also talks about how the first Kira would probably want to catch the second Kira, and this is before Light joins the task force, which plays into the fact that L thinks Light's the real Kira, and he knows that Light's a good detective and he'd probably want to find the second Kira, which would be another win-win for L. You can assume the same in the anime, but it's laid out a lot better in the manga. Also in the manga, we learn that Misa moved to Japan, presumably after Kira started killing and after she got her death note. L brings up Light playing the fake Kira when he's talking to the task force before Light joins the team, and he also brings up how the real Kira wouldn't let the opportunity to kill L slip through his fingers. Later, when the team is talking about the reply the second Kira sent, L brings up the fact that the second Kira isn't working towards their own goal, but instead they're doing what needs to be done to be able to meet the real Kira. In the anime, the episode ends with Light and Misa Misa in a cafe, but in the manga, Misa sends in another package to the TV station, and this time it also has a page from a diary. It's been a while since I've watched the anime, so they might do something like this in the next episode, but I don't remember Misa sending in a diary page, so I'm curious to see where this goes. Now that Misa's added to the mix, we have the last good character added to the series, and these next few episodes are going to be my favorites. If it's not obvious enough, Misa's one of my favorite anime characters, and this is also the point in the story where Light and Elle are interacting more directly, which makes for great moments, like when Light was writing the script for the fake Kira video. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe so you can see the next episode when it comes out. I also have videos going over different Batman cartoons from the animated series to beyond. If you want to show your support and get behind the scenes updates on videos, go ahead and check out my Patreon. I can't post links in my video descriptions for a while, but it's patreon.com/pimpturkey69. Thanks for watching, and until next time, later. Hey, what's up? This is part 7 in my series going over the Death Note anime and manga, and if you haven't seen any of the other parts, you can click up in the corner and there's a playlist on my channel. If you've seen my last video, then you know that we just met Misa, but in this part, Light is going to meet Misa. Also, Light is a straight up pimp in this episode.
Light, aren't you going to have any dinner?
Actually, I'm still full from room service at the hotel.
But I don't want to waste any more time, so let's get into it. This episode starts out with Light getting a call from Chief Yagami about a new video and a journal entry from the second Kira, and if you remember from my last video, I talked about this while going over the manga. It's been a while since I've watched the anime, so they might do something like this in the next episode, but I don't remember Misa sending in a diary page, so I'm curious to see where this goes. So I guess we're already at the point in the series where I don't know everything that's gonna happen, but don't worry, I still know most of what's gonna happen. Just enjoy this first half of episodes because this series jumps the shark hard. Also, fun fact, like the default save icon being a floppy disk, jumping the shark comes from Happy Days where the fawns literally jump the shark. Now you can sound cool at your next cocktail dinner. Anyway, I have a massive hangover when writing the script, so let's get back to the show. The journal entries are from a year ago, and within the writings are messages for both Kira and the task force.
May 22nd. My friend and I showed off our notebooks in Aoyama. If by notebooks he's referring to our death notes, that's something that could only be understood by me.
This is also when we learn that if you have the Shinigami eyes, you can't see the lifespan of anyone who has a death note.
And just as we can't see the lifespan of others of our kind, humans who possess a death note cannot see each other's lifespan, even with the eyes.
This might just be me reading too much into it, but when Elle asks Light what he thinks and Light says it's stupid, Elle almost throws a hissy fit in his own kind of way.
To be honest, it's so stupid. I'm not even sure how to deal with this whole situation anymore.
What makes me think this is when Chief Yagami asks Elle about checkpoints at the dome, Elle puts some extra emphasis on the word stupid before telling the task force that the dome is probably a red herring and the team should check all the locations listed.
It all depends on how stupid he really is. However, assuming he's not actually the idiot we think he is, there could be another message hidden in this diary.
Light also plans to go sicko mode if shit hits the fan.
At the very least, I have to obtain his notebook, and in the worst case, I may end up having to kill everyone there.
Matsui is going to be going undercover in Aoyama, and Light pushes his way into going with him, but this makes Elle even more suspicious, and after the task force head home, Elle calls Matsui and asks him to keep an eye on Light. When Light returns home, he can't tell his family that he's on the task force, so instead of being a detective, Light turns into a pimp.
Of course I have a girlfriend. You should look for a boyfriend, Sayu.
After Light gets up to his room, he tries making his move on Ryuk.
Okay, Ryuk. We need to have a little talk.
Should have known.
Actually, Light's asking about two Shinigamis meeting each other in the human realm.
As long as I'm attached to a human, I'd say it's against the rules unless I had their permission first. But there's no laws against it either, so I guess it's possible.
Light is also looking into possible meeting places and comes across an event going on at a club called Note Blue, and he thinks that the second Kira could be there.
Note and blue, it's a code.
Well, if you ask me, that's pretty elaborate.
He might be smarter than I thought.
We then cut to the next day where we see Light with Matsui and a group of people from Light's school, and we get to see Light pimping out some classmates to Matsui.
Oh yeah, he also told me he's looking for a girlfriend, so does anyone want to volunteer?
The real plan of being in a group is the fact that nobody could tell who Ryuk is with, but all this preparation is for nothing because Misa instantly knows it's Light when he walks by because of the Shinigami eyes.
He's Kira! I can't believe it! I never thought it would be this easy to find him.
After Misa finds out that Light is Kira, we cut to her in her bedroom buying Light's personal information on the dark web while listening to the main theme of the show.
Oh, it's written as moon, but read as light. Light Yagami. Oh, he sure is amazing. Look at all this stuff.
It's crazy that you can just buy people's information on the internet, and it reminds me of today's sponsor, NordVPN. NordVPN gives you unprecedented protection against the
according to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
Are you smoking yet?
But for real, Misa's just the right blend of toxic.
Everything about him is better than I imagined. I can't believe how easy it was to purchase this information. The world sure is a scary place. I even know his home address now. But can't you see?
We cut to a few days later when the news team gets another set of tapes from the second Kira. This complicates things because the only event that would match with the tapes being sent is when Light and Matsui went to Aoyama. The tape also talks about how the second Kira has found the original Kira, which is just insult to injury at this point.
Is Light really Kira after all?
The task force's plan now is to try and reach out to the second Kira and offer them a deal, and Light can't do anything to stop this.
That's the last thing you wanted to hear, right?
This isn't good. I have no idea how the fake Kira will react to this.
We then see Misa heading out, and she strolls right up to Light's house, and the two Kiras finally meet.
Shinigami. She's the fake Kira.
It's a good thing Light's a pimp because he has a built-in excuse as to why this hot piece of ass is hanging around.
I already told you about her.
I get the wave in that semi like it's legal.
After making their way up to Light's room, Light puts on his best Chris Hansen impression and asks Misa to take a seat. We then get a masterclass in how to gaslight someone into a toxic relationship that's definitely gonna have a happy ending.
If she finds out I'm manipulating her and gets hurt, she'll probably kill me. But still.
We also find out how Misa sent the tapes to the news station and that Kira means everything to her because he avenged her parents' death. Light's assessment of the situation is that Misa isn't as stupid as he thought, and she also has the eyes, so he seals the deal with a hug and whispers a sweet nothing as we end the episode.
The lengths you went to meet me, to be of help to me, those eyes of yours that you sacrificed half your life to get, will become my weapon.
Thank you so much.
The next episode opens right where we left off, with Light hugging Misa and thinking about his game plan.
I'll arrange for her to meet L. She'll tell me his name, and then I eliminate the entire task force. And when that's done, I'll kill her too.
Misa also meets Ryuk and tells Light how to kill a Shinigami.
Good luck trying to find a Shinigami who'd volunteer to do that.
That's true. I can't see you ever doing that.
We cut to L watching the tapes from Aoyama, and we see L's suspicion growing, with L asking Chief Yagami to have someone start to follow Light.
It's only a slim chance, but if Light is Kira, then there's still a possibility that the second Kira might try to contact him somehow.
Very well.
The beginning of this episode is kind of like an extended recap from the last episode, with Misa going into even more detail about how she sent the tapes in. Light tells her she needs to get rid of the tapes, but before she does, she needs to send in one last message.
I will share my power with others who I feel are worthy, and I will encourage them to do the same. Together we'll make this world a better place.
Share my power?
We'll just add that part to throw off their investigation.
After Light gives Misa the police talk, Misa says that she wants to go on a date at least once a week, and Light proceeds to break down the situation he's in and why it wouldn't be such a good idea to be seen together.
L already suspects that I'm Kira. Do you see what I'm saying here?
No way! Elle is amazing.
Light also says that to keep up appearances, he should see other girls, and Misa is not having it.
You're seriously gonna date other girls?
Yeah, more or less.
I don't want you to! If I see you with another girl, I'll kill her.
Light puts on some smooth talk and calms Misa down, but Misa's still going on about falling in love.
I love you more than the world, Light.
It sounds like you're confused.
Oh, by the way, this was supposed to be a Valentine's Day special, but you can see how well that worked out. After Light threatens to kill Misa, Rem steps in and straps on and proceeds to put Light into his place.
If you don't obey me, I can easily kill you.
I would never allow that, Light Yagami.
Ryuk is the goat, but Rem is pretty cool.
If you tried to save me, you would die too.
Yes, you are correct. But I'm quite willing to accept that outcome.
The tension is broken when Light's mom comes in the room and asks Light to show Misa out. While Misa is walking away, we hear Light's family's reaction to Misa and Light realizing what he just got himself into.
You're right. She's cute, Mom. I like her.
That Shinigami is going to kill me if I kill that girl? Which means I'm gonna have her hanging around me until she dies?
We cut to later in the night with Light thinking about how he could kill Rem while doing research on Misa.
She's famous? I don't even want to imagine what would happen if someone found out about us.
Light decides to focus on Elle first and then take care of Rem and Misa later. At breakfast, Light asks his family not to tell anyone about Misa because she's an up-and-coming model, which is a good way to turn shit to sugar.
I'll keep it a secret. For $50.
Oh, stop it.
We then cut to Light in class where he's thinking about the tape arriving today. We also see him with a new bitch, and I don't know where this character development came from. I mean, he's always been popular, but like, dude's really got bitches all on his dick.
I guess I was just thinking about how everyone's gonna be talking about us now. To think that I'm actually going out with Miss Takata, the famous Miss Todai.
I'm a motherfucking SIMP.
We also see that there's a detective in the back of the classroom observing Light. Light stops by the task force right in time to see Elle watch the newest tape. The tape is basically what Light and Misa went over earlier, talking about how they're stopping looking for Kira but still plan on helping Kira and sharing powers.
I've decided to stop searching for Kira, and I'd like to thank the police department for their advice. However, I still plan to help Kira in his mission.
Elle comes to the conclusion that the two Kiras have met. Dubs can sometimes be poo, but the voice actor for Elle gives a really good performance here with his line delivery and pace.
It begs the question, why didn't he do this to begin with? I'm guessing it's because he never thought that far ahead. He probably met Kira and was told which criminals he'd be allowed to judge.
After Elle breaks it all down, Light challenges Elle's take on the tape.
Ryuzaki.
Yes, Light?
I think you're mistaken. I would never do that if I were Kira.
We also get another scene of Chief Yagami pussyfooting around when Light says, "If I were Kira, then blank," and it just took me until now to realize that at first he probably was being a bitch, but now he's trying to get Light to stop self-snitching because he knows that Elle is investigating Light, or he is just being a bitch and I'm looking too deep into it. Elle also drops another absolute bombshell on Light.
I feel you're the first friend that I have ever had.
It's hard to tell what's genuine with Elle, but he does really seem happy when Light talks about playing tennis again.
We should play tennis again soon.
Yes, we should.
While Light is walking home, Misa jumps Light and Light almost goes full Sigma grindset on Misa.
This is the first time in my life that I've been provoked to hit a woman.
We also see the detective observing this absolute pimp at work. After making their way upstairs, Light makes a play on Rem by buttering up Misa to get her to go send Rem to Elle.
If you agree to kill Elle, it would only make me love Misa that much more. Plus, I'd be grateful to you. Most importantly, the two of us will be happy together.
Rem.
We end this episode with Rem agreeing to kill Elle and Light having mixed feelings about being so close to what he's wanted for so long.
Elle will die. That's all it took.
Getting into the manga, when Rem is telling Misa about the eyes, Rem mentions that it's hard to predict what humans will do if they know when they're gonna die. So that's why humans with the Death Note can't know their lifespan, and a human can't tell another human their lifespan. Also, the website I'm ripping these from has some pretty nice artwork.
What? Oh no!
When L is talking about setting up police checkpoints, he talks about getting the officers from the TV station incident, and it's a nice little callback. Speaking of nice little callbacks, when the task force is talking about the second Kira, they treat it more like a threat, which makes sense because of what happened at the TV station. When Light butts his way into going to Aoyama, we get to see more of L's thought process, with him thinking that Light could just be in a hurry to find the second Kira because it could blow his operation, and not because he's a figure of justice. L also talks about how they should destroy all photos of them and be extra careful about showing their faces, which adds to the threat of the second Kira that's not as prevalent in the anime. I'm not sure if I just missed it in the anime, but in the manga they bring up the fact that if the two Kiras were to meet, all they would need is photos of the task force, and that seems like too much of a power play for the anime to ignore. Death Note is also odd in the sense that most of the time the anime stretches the manga, like all the filler episodes in Naruto and Dragon Ball, but in Death Note it's almost like the manga is stretching out the anime. Since L talks so much about removing photos, it makes more sense that Misa can't find a picture of Light when she's cyber stalking him. We also get a nice little shout out to Ray Penber when the task force get the tape after Light was at Aoyama, and I'm wondering how long we'll get these callbacks. The anime has all but forgotten about Ray and Shoko at this point. When the task force is talking about the two Kiras meeting, L talks about how the second Kira used to say meet Kira in the tapes, but now the newest tape says that he found Kira but not met Kira. When Misa's heading to Light's house, Rem asks where she's going, and Misa tells her that she's going to turn herself in, and it just gave me a little chuckle. Also, no comment. In the anime, Rem is like Misa's protector, but in the manga, Rem tells Light that she told Misa to use a fake name, but she didn't. When Misa's giving Light her Death Note, and Light is talking about her still having a piece of the Death Note, he also talks about the rules of the notebook and how she can't make him fall in love with her using it, and you can only control a person's actions for 23 days. When Misa's telling Light about her parents' death, Light brings up how she killed innocent people with the whole TV station fiasco, and Misa just kinda says, well, you did it too, but it's nice to see that these events in the manga have long-lasting impacts. I'm not sure if it's just the translation I'm getting these screenshots from, but Misa starts talking in the third person, and I'm glad they didn't bring this over to the anime. When L is looking over the security footage, we not only get another Ray shoutout, but L also closes the investigation on the Kitamaru family, and the person who is posing as L is now going to be investigating Light. It's really nice to see how long these story threads go in the manga, when in the anime it's almost like it just jumps from plot point to plot point. In the manga, Misa breaks down how the eyes work and how much of a face and from what angle she needs to see it in order to get their name, and it's a really cool lore building moment, and I'm not sure why they cut it from the anime. We also learn that Misa is not only a model but a co-host on a late night talk show, and her parents' murder is a common discussion point on her fan page, which is nice and adding dimension to her character. Now, I know we all love hot anime whammon, but what's even sexier is a whammon with character development. We also get a little expansion when L is telling Light that he's his friend, with the tennis game taking place after all this Kier nonsense is over, and L talking about how he gets chills whenever he's in public. These episodes were honestly kind of mid, but now we have all of our players set up, and these next couple of episodes are gonna go hard. If you like this video, you should check out my videos going over various Batman shows from the animated series to beyond, and you can do that by clicking up in the corner or checking out the playlist I have on my channel. I've also thought about doing a follow-up on my Nightmare on Elm Street video, either going over Dream Warriors or Friday the 13th Part 2. I also got some Saw movies, and the first Saw movie is like actually a good horror movie, and that's before they went all crazy with the plot twists and elaborate traps. You should also check out the podcast I do with Arnie King called Henny for Your Thoughts. We upload new episodes every 2 weeks, and I talk about things I don't cover on the channel. So like, I'll have a disc playing, and then I'll be like watching The Sopranos or whatever the fuck on my computer, and then all of a sudden I'll hear like the Xbox 360 when you hit it the wrong way with the game playing, and I'm like, eject, you're scratching it, no, fuck. And then no, the worst thing is it won't eject, bro, so I have to take out, I have this lighter, and this lighter has a boot on it, and it has that little pin. So I literally have to find my lighter, take this nasty ass pin, and do the manual eject mode while my disc is getting fucking blended in there. And I'm like, no, stop it!
You're like, God damn it! I'll never be able to watch this part of the Sopranos again. Straight ruining the scene.
Also, if you want to show your support and get behind the scenes updates on videos, you should follow me on Patreon at PimpTurkey69. Until next time, later. Hey, what's up? It's the most copywritten YouTuber back at it again with another re-upload. No, your ears do not deceive you. I did say re-upload because this is the third time I've had to upload this video. Now, you see, most of the time YouTube lets you know within an hour of uploading if you have any copyrighted material in your video, but this time they've decided to switch from letting you know in an hour to letting you know in a week. So the first time I posted this video, it said it was all fine, no restrictions, complied with the YouTube terms of service. But then in about 3 days, they did a 180 and internationally blocked it. I went in, I edited some parts, and then re-uploaded it. And while I was hitting upload for that second time, I had a thought in the back of my head that they're probably going to do something like this again, so I took a screenshot. Here is that screenshot showing that this video was perfectly fine with YouTube's terms of services 4 days ago. But then fast forward to today, and I wake up to see that it has been internationally blocked again. So I guess I'm in it for the long haul. I'm going to be dancing this dance, or rather shuffling this shuffle with YouTube's copyright system until this video gets to stay up. Now, while I don't mind participating in this pissing contest, it still is annoying because if I have to come back and work on the same video every 4 days just to get it to stay up, I can't work on a new video. If I have to keep on worrying about Death Note episode 8, I'm never going to be able to make episode 9 or a video going over a Hellboy movie, which, spoilers, that's the next video coming out. So it sucks. It also really sucks because I got a lot of great comments on that video telling me to cover Sopranos, which I will be in the future, saying that they're excited for the next part in the series, you know, really community building comments here, the good ones. And now they're all gone. The collective, I think maybe 1,500 views between the two videos, they're all gone now. That's great. That's just great. It's exactly what I wanted. But yeah, I guess that's all I have to say for this opening bit. If you'd be kind enough to throw a subscribe my way, you'll get to see this video get reposted in a week again. Anyway, I have to get back to my very important work of smashing my head up against the rock, so I hope you guys enjoy the video, and later. Hey, what's up? This is part 8 in my series going over the Death Note anime and manga and talking about the differences between the two. If you haven't seen any of the other episodes, you can click up in the corner, and there's also a playlist on my channel. If you remember from the last episode, Light just met Misa and they made a plan to kill L.
I'll kill L for you. L will die. That's all it took.
This couple of episodes kind of marks the point where the series changes. Like, the first few episodes are really soaked in that crime thriller genre, but from here on out we'll see more of the comedy suspense thriller soup that makes Death Note such a unique series.
I believe you kill your son and then yourself.
It's not necessarily a bad change. We haven't gotten there yet. Anyway, I don't want to waste any more time, so let's get right into it. We open right where we left off with Light and Rem talking about killing L. Light decides to take tonight to think of a plan, and tomorrow they'll get together and talk it over. Light asks Misa for her number, and she gets excited for a second, but then Light has to explain the rules of trapping and how the feds be doing wiretaps on phones.
I'm your girlfriend. I should have your number.
I already told you.
I stay high like giraffe pussy.
It's not difficult for them to bug even cell phones these days.
Light tells Misa that it's time to go home, but she's wanting to go out to Red Lobster and shit. Light's move is to plant a kiss on them lips, and this gets the job done, with Misa leaving in a haze. After Misa leaves, Light and Ryuk start talking about the game plan, and Ryuk brings up how L said that he thought of Light as a friend.
I thought perhaps you were hesitating because he said he thinks of you as a friend.
A friend? I just gave him what he wanted.
We then get transported into the intro when Light thinks about his plan and how tomorrow will be the last day that L lives. We then cut to L studying evidence, and he just drops this bombshell.
Mr. Yagami, if I die within the next few days, your son is Kira. Another hair.
Oh, shit!
Light's dad is understandably pissed, and L talks about why he thinks what he thinks.
I may not be thinking as clearly as I normally do, so I could be wrong. Maybe I still consider him a suspect only because we don't have anyone else.
L then name drops the episode.
This is all a wager now.
We then cut to the next day where Light's talking to one of his many bitches and he sees Elle on a bench.
Ah, hey, Light. How's it going?
Light is asking Elle why he's here, and Elle proceeds to destroy any hope Light had.
The fact is, you're the only one on the outside who knows me as Elle. In the unlikely event that I die in the next few days, I've instructed your father and everyone at headquarters to assume that you are Kira.
Light has to roll with the punches at this point, so him and Elle plan to go get some cake at the school cafe. This is interrupted, however, when who else but Misa shows up.
Light, there you are! I had a photo shoot nearby, so I thought I'd come by to see you.
Misa, you idiot!
Light's pissed at first, but then he realizes that Misa can see Elle's real name. Light is happy at seeing shit be turned to sugar, but then he notices Elle starting to laugh.
Ryuga, deciding to come here today was a mistake.
The tension is broken when it turns out that Elle is just Misa's top OnlyFans donator.
I have been a huge fan of yours ever since the August issue of 18.
What? Really? That's so sweet of you.
A crowd starts to form when people notice Misa, and it's going fine until Elle turns into a Weinstein.
No way! Somebody just touched my butt!
In the criminal justice system, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous.
I want to touch her too!
Misa's manager comes to get her and the crowd breaks up. This gives Light the perfect opportunity to call Misa and figure out Elle's real name.
It's been fun, Elle. I'm grateful that I was the one to discover your name, so I could kill you myself.
This falls to pieces when Light dials the phone, and this is what I was talking about when I said that these episodes mark a shift in the series. The scene is still great, which is why I don't mind the shift. It just makes me love Elle even more, which is always good.
Hello?
Yeah, that's Misa's cell phone you have. I can give it back to her.
No, I see. Sure, that makes sense.
We then get a double whammy when Light goes to dial Misa's second phone.
But Misa has another phone he doesn't know about. I'll just call that one instead.
Oh. Well, this time it's actually my cell phone.
This is when we find out that Misa's been apprehended because she's the second Kira. We then learn that Misa was sloppy when sending in the latest batch of tapes, and they found hair follicles that matched ones found in Misa's room. We then get transported back to the Shadow Realm where we see a more physical representation of the mental battle that Elle and Light are going through.
He confronted things head on. This wager was my...
We then cut to Elle in a hotel room, and he's showing the rest of the task force Misa. The plan is to get Misa to talk by any means necessary.
Watari, take the necessary precautions, but beyond that, you're free to do whatever has to be done, okay?
Light is also made the prime suspect again, and he's going to be brought in for questioning. We then cut to a few days later when Misa's starting to talk. She's asking for them to kill her, but then we see that she's actually talking to Rem and asking her to kill her.
If you wanted to, you could kill me right now, couldn't you?
Misa, do you mean...
Yes. Kill me.
The scene is almost hard to watch, with the normally upbeat Misa crying and begging to be killed because she just can't take it anymore. The visuals of a tied up Misa and her trying to bite her tongue don't really help any either.
Kill me. Please just kill me.
I don't know. Maybe this was all too much for a young girl to take.
That's what she said!
We see Rem reporting back in with Light, and she tells him about Misa begging to die. Rem brings up one last option, and that is Misa relinquishing ownership of the Death Note.
If Misa forfeits ownership of the Death Note, all her memories related to it would disappear. All the murders she committed with it. The fact that you are Kira.
It's really a sad scene to watch.
It's okay. The human being who you love is Light Yagami. I promise those feelings will remain.
Rem also brushes Misa's hair out of her way, and Elle sees this, but he doesn't think anything of it. We then get Rem giving Light a good old threat to save Misa or die.
But I did so on one condition. And that is, if you don't save Misa, I will kill you.
We end this episode with Light saying some cryptic shit to Ryuk.
This is goodbye, Ryuk.
You piece of shit!
We open up this episode with Chrissy at the Pine Barrens with Polly, and oh wait, that's the wrong show. Might do a video over it, let me know in the comments.
He killed 16 Czechoslovakians. Guy was an interior decorator. His house looked like shit.
It's actually just Light relinquishing ownership of Misa's Death Note.
I hereby relinquish ownership of this Death Note.
Take care of her. You gave your word.
We then cut to Misa, who's waking up with no memories of the Death Note.
Hello, mister? Where are you right now? Do you think we could stop this game?
Huh? Stalker? Where'd you get that?
Light's all good though, because he still has his Death Note, so he can still see Rem. Ryuk is a little upset at Light burying his Death Note in the woods, but Light tells him to get over it and listen for a code phrase.
For the time being, I'm just hiding it, but it stays mine. Until the next time you hear me say the following words, get rid of it.
We then cut back to Misa, who's acting like someone who's been kidnapped by a stalker. The team is confused at this shift in character, so L calls the officer who arrested her.
When you apprehended Misa Amane, you made it clear that she was a suspect, am I correct?
Yes, like you told me.
Elle starts questioning Misa, and she's really set on this whole stalker motif. Matsui isn't having any of it, and he has a little outburst.
Hey, Amane!
Oh, this is scary. What's going on?
Misa then brings up piss fetishes and calls Elle a pervert.
Plus, you'd be able to watch. Isn't that what you want? Isn't it? You pervert!
I'm a pervert?
Well, you think what you want about me. I'm not changing. I like me. My kids like me. My friends like me.
Light then comes in and says that he just might be Kira.
Ryuzaki, like I said over the phone, I could be Kira.
Damn it!
Light's dad is pissed and Elle is confused. Light puts on a pretty good show, too.
Subconsciously, I might be Kira. If that were the case, I could be him and not even know it.
No, Light.
Light is kind of fucked because of the whole surveillance arc and all the cameras that were in his house. Matsui is just sitting there meat riding Light though and telling him that he's all good.
If I can think like Kira, then how can I be sure that I'm not actually him?
Hold on, Light.
Light then goes for the Jekyll and Hyde defense, saying that he might be Kira, but Kira only takes over when he's asleep or incapacitated. Elle's plan is to do what Light wanted to do many episodes ago and imprison Light and put him under surveillance. Light suggests total isolation and observation to prove his innocence, but Elle questions if someone who is innocent would go to such lengths.
Would any normal person be willing to go to such extreme measures to clear their name? That's no good. I can't do anything that would deprive you of basic human rights.
Light's father is putting up a huss and fuss, but Light is really committed to being committed. We then see Light getting escorted out Hannibal Lecter style. We come back from commercial to see the first day of confinement. It's really funny seeing Ryuk hanging out with Light in the cell. Like, he doesn't really have to stay there with him, but at the same time, he doesn't really have anything better to do.
So, I guess are out of the question.
We then see Elle's hotel setup with cams on both Light and Misa. Light's father then comes in and asks to be taken off the investigation because of conflicting interests. Chief Yagami also doesn't know what he would do with himself if Light was Kira, and Elle just drops this line.
I don't know what I'd be capable of.
Yes, I'll agree with you there. To be honest, I wondered what you might do. I believe you'd kill your son and then yourself.
Chris Benoit.
After this, Chief Yagami asks to be locked up as well. We then cut to the third day of confinement and we see Elle's gamer setup. We also hear sound bites from each character on screen.
Hey, mister, I really want to take a bath. I'm pretty sure you already know where I live, don't you? Could you bring me some clean clothes?
We hear that since Light's been locked up, no criminals have died and Light pretends to accept his fate.
I see. So it's only a matter of time before I'm convicted as Kira.
what I wouldn't give for an
The whole situation confuses L, and we get to hear some inner monologue. We then cut to day 5 and we see Ryuk straight up tweaking. We also get to see Chief Yagami looking like me when I get copyright strikes on my videos.
Mr. Yagami looks pretty bad.
L tells Chief Yagami to calm down, and if you know anything about independent black women, they do not like it when you tell them to calm down. We then cut to day 7 of confinement. L asks Light how he's feeling, and Light decides that now's the time to play his trump card.
Yeah, I know I must look pretty bad in here, but this useless pride, I suppose I'll have to get rid of it.
Ryuk also gets some time to shine. We then see Light after relinquishing ownership of the Death Note, and it's kind of neat to see like a pre-Death Note Light.
Why am I doing this? I don't belong here.
With Light acting like this and Misa acting like she's been acting, L and the task force are confused at what to do next. We then cut to day 15 with Matsui coming up and talking about a new batch of deaths.
I just heard 2 weeks worth of criminals were just murdered all at once. It happened yesterday.
Yeah, Kira is back.
Matsui tells Chief Yagami about the news, and they think that Light might just not be Kira. L's assessment of the situation is that Light's in the gray.
Well, he's in the gray.
Did you hear what he just said, Chief?
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot better than being completely guilty.
Matsui also gets bitch slapped after trying to tell Light the news, and it's funny to see L get physical. L lies to Light about the news, and Light goes through a whole miniature stroke.
But even if the evidence does point to me, I swear to you, this is a setup. I am not Kira. Zoom in on me if you want. Go ahead, look at my eyes.
L then asks Misa if she knows who Kira is, and he gets nothing but confusion. We end this episode with L just not knowing what to do.
I don't understand what's going on here.
He says, she says, he says, shut up. The women of Dazzletown show their true nature in Vinewood Cunts. Only on Weasel.
But, oh, you got a gap in your mouth? You poor. I was born with a gap in my fucking mouth.
And the funny thing was,
it just so happens that I'm poor.
Yeah, I like this shit. Ha, R&D, bitch.
This is CNT.
My name is Stephanie Pearson. I tried dating, but it mostly ended in me just getting desperate and blowing homeless guys. Then I met Nathan on lovemeet.net. We totally hit it off.
Getting into the manga, when Light and Ryuk are talking about the kiss, Light talks about how he's gonna make Misa fall in love with him, and how even if he does kill the person he thinks is L, it could just turn out to be another body double like the one that appeared on the news. When L is thinking that Light could be Kira, he thinks about whether or not he should go back into hiding or even just not letting Light see him again. He also talks about how he's not afraid to die, but he just has unfinished business, and it's not like this makes the manga L super different from the anime L, but it gives a bigger window into the character. When L is telling Chief Yagami that if he dies in the next couple of days, Light is Kira, L also brings up how Chief Yagami would lead the investigation because he would be the best person to get a confession out of Light. When Light is walking with side bitch number 15, we get some commentary by a couple of dweebs talking about how much of a pimp Light is and how he's oh so smart. When L is telling Light that if he dies in the next couple of days, Light will become the prime suspect, L also talks about how L isn't just one person, and he bluffs that there's a whole team of people out there just like him. And I'm not sure why they cut this line out of the anime. Like, it's a nice quick callback, and my only theory is that they wanted a more comedical tone to the episode before pulling the rug with Misa's arrest. We also get a page where L is commenting on Light's pimp status, and like, I get get the whole charming person who's actually evil thing, but they really play into Light being a chill weed vibes only kind of guy. When Misa runs into Light at the college, Rem is also with her, which makes sense, and now that I've seen this, it feels kind of weird when she's not there in the anime. When the crowds start to form around Misa, it's more like she's an up-and-coming model and not an established icon, with some people not knowing who Misa is or what exactly she does. Again, it's not like a huge change that makes the manga massively different from the anime, but it gives texture to the character. Like, it's easy to write a character that everyone knows and loves, but it's more realistic to just have a few people know who they are. When the crowd is breaking up, Elle talks about going back to a lecture rather than going to get cake, and I like the anime more for this, in the sense that cake is more up Elle's alley rather than wasting time listening to a lecture. When Light is thinking about how he's going to kill Elle, he thinks about controlling his actions for as long as the Death Note would allow, and letting him continue his investigation until his time runs up, which is a pretty solid plan. I like the execution of this scene better in the anime, but that's because they have pacing and voice acting that you just can't get in the manga, but the scene is still great in the manga. Also in the manga, we get to hear Elle's thoughts when Light dials the phone, and it's kind of funny seeing Elle going into this really deep plan just for Light to already know it's him and not Misa. We also get to learn more details about the evidence they found, like the hair being from a cat and makeup powder also being found. When Light is thinking about what happened, we don't get to see the Shadow Realm and Light freaking minds like his name was Chris, and it's actually a really neat way of showing the mind games that Elle and Light are playing. When the task force is talking about the evidence, they go into so much detail talking about pollen from flowers and matching ink from pens, and it makes this series still feel like a crime drama with how much they talk about the investigation part of the Kira investigation. I'm not sure what this adds, but when Elle is talking about Light being Kira, he talks about how he had one of Misa's phones, and while it's normal for couples to do these things, Elle knows that Light isn't into that foo-foo shit. When Misa is asking Rem to kill her, we also hear that she hasn't had water for 3 days, and while it's played off as hearsay, it adds to the difficulty in this scene. Speaking of adding difficulty, I'm just gonna leave this up here for a second. I don't know if I'm just missing something, but when Light relinquishes control of Misa's Death Note, he can still see Rem because he has his Death Note. And if this is the case, shouldn't Misa also be able to see Ryuk?
Also, Misa would no longer be able to see Ryuk or me either.
They both just touched each other's notebooks in the same kind of way. It's not like they wrote down names in each other's book. So I'm not sure why Misa forgets everything, but Light basically forgets nothing. Let me know down in the comments if I'm just missing something. When Light is calling Elle, Matsui comments on the odd relationship Light and Elle have, and it's kind of funny getting this almost meta commentary. When Light is telling Elle about how he might be Kira but just not know it, he talks about the gods of death, and it better sets up what I think Light is trying to do. What I think Light's trying to do with all this is make it seem like Misa and himself are just being possessed by the gods of death. I'm not sure if I like it in the anime more because they don't really spell it out, or if I like it in the manga more because I didn't really realize what was going on until I read it in the manga. Also, when Light is talking about how he was thinking that some criminals should die, he goes from light to dark mode and says that it's not just criminals he wanted dead, and it shows the added edge that the manga has. When Light is talking about clearing his name, he brings up how if he's not Kira, then he wants to catch the real Kira, and it brings it back to the whole vibe of the manga compared to the anime, and how the manga is still steeped in crime drama where the anime is adding in more comedical elements. In the manga, when the task force is talking about making up excuses for Light's absence, we actually get to hear the lie, which is that Light's running off with Misa and Chief Yagami wouldn't approve. We also hear about how Light's oh so smart that he could miss up to 2 years of school and still be fine. When Elle is thinking about Light's plan, he thinks about how originally he wanted to capture Kira and then make him demonstrate his powers, but the backup plan of imprisoning Light and Misa isn't isn't a terrible option. When Light is asking Elle about updates in the case, he also asks about Misa and if there's any updates on her. And even though Elle tells Light that he doesn't really need to know any of that information, it's great at showing Light's commitment to the bit. Like, in real life, if your girlfriend was accused of being a serial killer, you would naturally want to get updates. But none of us have to worry about that. Am I right, boys?
I miss you. I don't want to know you. I don't want to hear your voice. Don't ever call me again.
We then get some real nice panel work when Light relinquishes ownership of his Death Note, and we see his eye going from one of determination to one of fear. We end the manga the same way we ended the anime, with Light swearing he was set up, Misa not knowing what's going on, and Elle confused. This batch of episodes were kinda laid back, with most of the action happening in the first half. We're almost done with the first set of DVDs, so after episode 10, I'll be uploading a compilation of all of the episodes, kinda like a season 1. It'll mostly just be the episodes, but I'll be chiming in between episodes and giving my updated opinions and whatnot. Also, in my last video, I got a few comments about my editing, so these next few seconds are just for you. You should check out the podcast I co-host with R&A King called Henny for Your Thoughts. We upload new episodes every 2 weeks. Also, if you want to share support and get behind the scenes updates, you should follow me on Patreon. Until next time, later.
Loving you is easy 'cause you're beautiful.
Hey, what's up? This is part 9 of my series going over the Death Note anime and manga and talking about the differences between the two. And if you haven't seen any of the other episodes, there's a playlist on my channel and you can also click up in the corner. Sorry to the people that subscribed for my Batman content, but 1, I'm not really a Batman YouTuber. I just cover things I like and I like Batman. And 2, we're almost halfway done with this series, and after episode 10 comes out, I'll be taking a break from this to work on other content. There's a couple of movies I'm wanting to cover, but some of them I just don't know how to cover without the video being over an hour long, or they're good movies but covering touchy topics and I'm just not trying to deal with all that right now. And I'm also wanting to do a video over The Sopranos, and I've been thinking about a follow-up on my Beavis and Butthead video, and more likely than not another video going over something Batman. Anyway, channel update over, let's get back to the video at hand. In the last episode, Light and Misa relinquished ownerships of their Death Notes, and I don't want to give away too much if you don't know, but this is the point where the series hits a plateau, and it almost becomes a new series entirely. Not saying it's bad, Judgment Day hasn't come yet. Also, I'm writing this before I've read the manga for this episode, so I'm wondering how the normally darker toned manga is going to handle the shift in the series. Anyway, I've wasted enough time and I don't want this video to be too long, so let's go ahead and get right into it. We open this episode with Rem telling someone how they can use the Death Note.
Do as I say and you'll get what you want. In the end, it works out well for both of us. I suppose for someone in your position, you'd call this good business.
We then cut to Elle and the task force on day 50 of confinement, and I don't remember exactly what day Light relinquished ownership, but it was only like 2 weeks or so in, so he's been Kira-free for a good period of time now. Chief Yagami and Misa are still wilting like flowers in a hot summer sun, but that process started pretty much day 1 for them. After 50 days of confinement, the rest of the task force are starting to feel like the confinement is more about Elle's refusal to be wrong at this point.
This is just cruel. I don't care if he is a suspect. Light still has a right to know that criminals are being killed again.
Elle is more used to dishing out the L's rather than taking them, so he makes one last plan to find out if Light is Kira. We then get an iconic scene where Chief Yagami's taking Misa and Light to be executed.
I am afraid you two are being taken to your execution.
This scene single-handedly makes up for the honestly mid-confinement arc with the stone-cold delivery from Chief Yagami and Light begging with Misa.
I don't understand. The killings have already stopped.
No, they never stopped.
They never... That's not what he told me, so he was lying?
Chief Yagami drives the car under a bridge and tells Misa that he's about to do a good old murder sui. Misa kinda gets the shit end of the stick with having to sit in a car with 2 dead bodies and not a single window rolled down while she waits for the cops to find the car.
Amane, I'm going to die here with my son, but I have no reason to kill you. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's only a matter of time before the police locate this car.
So, while the reveal of the round turning out to be a blank was great, Light would still get his shit pushed in. Just look at this slow-mo footage. Also look at the crow. No, not that crow, this one. Back to the show, we see that L had hidden cameras in the car and was watching all of this unfold.
Were you watching, Ryuzaki? I did exactly as you said, and as you can see, I'm still alive.
It's kind of funny because even if Light and Misa were the 2 Kiras, L would still have come to the same conclusion. Basically, L says that if Misa only needed to see a face and not a name, she would have killed Chief Yagami, and if Light were Kira, he would have killed his own dad. But neither of them could have used a notebook with their hands cuffed behind their backs. The plan going forward is to end confinement, but still keep Misa under surveillance since they still have the fingerprints and other DNA that links her to the second Kira.
If I were you, I'd
Get out the car, bitch!
Light gets a much better deal with getting to team up with L and being handcuffed to him. We also get a gay joke from Misa, and I think this officially marks the plateau.
Looking at you, I never would have guessed. Are you on that side of the fence, Ryuzaki?
Also, while Misa is annoying, her interacting with L is pretty entertaining. This scene feels like it's out of an average sitcom, and it's kind of off-putting if I'm being honest.
So why would you kiss me if you didn't have feelings for me? You took advantage of me? Stupid.
Also, like, as long as you read the series blurb on the back of the box, you could realistically start the series here. Like, they reintroduce all the main players in the game, and the pacing is faster, and there's more quips rather than inner monologues. Aizawa pretty much spells it out.
Would you cut it out with all this and Misa talk already? This is the Kira investigation. Stop around!
Pimp Light also comes out when L asks him if he's serious about Misa, and it's nice to see that even though Light isn't Kira right now, he still maintains his status.
So, Light, are you serious about her?
No way. Like I told you earlier, it's completely one-sided.
He also wants Light to put the moves on Misa to try and get a confession out of her. We get a brief return to form when L thinks about Light's changing character.
There's something wrong with this picture. It's as if he's a different person now. Is it possible that this is an act?
As if the gay joke wasn't a metaphorical plateau, we get a very physical plateau with the fantastic 4-tower L pulls out of nowhere. Literally nowhere. Matsui asks L where he got the money, and L just dodges the question and moves on.
Hold on a second. Where did you find the finances to build this thing?
As you can see, it is my intention to solve this case no matter what it takes.
We then get formally introduced to the Yatsuba group, which is a group of CEOs that use Kira's ability to kill their competitors. One of the members of the group is also the proxy Kira we saw Rem talking to in the beginning of this episode, basically letting him use the Death Note however he wants to, as long as he does what Rem tells him to.
Human beings are truly disgusting creatures.
We open this episode with Aizawa entering L's Fantastic Four tower and getting stuck in the metal detectors. We also learn that Aizawa has a shit home life, and if I've learned anything from violence in movies and sex on TV, Aizawa is either gonna die or leave the story. Sudden character development is a death sentence in shows, and if you don't believe me, watch the first couple of seasons of The Walking Dead.
I miss my vibrator.
Oh my god.
The team pull up surveillance cameras on the back computer, and we cut to Light, Misa, and L eating cake. We then get L and Misa arguing about Misa not being able to slob on some knob, and L just tells the two how he really feels.
You're right. Actually, I'm depressed.
L basically recaps the previous episodes and comes to the conclusion that Kira's power must be able to pass through people, and he's basically back to square one now. Light then puts some pep in his step in the most literal sense possible, and we get something I didn't think I'd see in Death Note, and that's a fight scene. For this not being a fighting show, the animation is great and you can really see the weight behind the chains dragging the two around. It's also great seeing Light and Elle fighting it out, and throwing petty insults at each other.
It's as if you won't be satisfied unless I am Kira.
I won't be satisfied unless you're Kira. Well, there may be some truth to that.
Matsui breaks up the fight with a phone call, and Elle breaks his balls with no mercy.
Matsuda's acting stupid again.
Well, that is his specialty. I can hear you, you know.
We then see Light and Elle working in the computer lab, and they're looking into the recent Kira killings. While the chess game between Light and Elle was kind of the main draw of the series, seeing them working together is pretty fun.
Are you feeling a bit more motivated now?
We then cut to the Yatsuba group, where the group is learning about the rules of the Death Note and how with Kira on their side, they'll be rich beyond belief.
If someone was able to trace the deaths of these people back to us, then he'd have to be a god.
It's not even a real laugh.
We then see that the task force is already investigating them, and the Yatsuba group has offered bribes to a lot of people, including the police, meaning that Chief Yagami and Mogi are going to quit working with them. Elle recommends them to keep their job working with the police, since he wanted them on the case more for the police cooperation and less for the manpower of 4 people. Despite this, Chief Yagami is still wanting to work on the task force because he's just too involved at this point, and Matsui also wants to be on the force and Misa's manager.
Besides, if I stayed on as a police officer, I'd feel like a total loser.
Think before you open your mouth, Matsuda.
Aizawa has a wife and kids, so he would need the employment of the police, but he still wants to work with the task force. But Elle makes it clear that you're either with the team or against it. This leads to Aizawa breaking down, not knowing what to do, and Watari chimes in and asks Elle about the fund they had set aside for people that lost their jobs. This just pisses Aizawa off even more, and he makes his decision to leave the task force. He also airs out all of his dirty laundry with Elle, and it gives off the quitting from a fast food place vibes.
I also hate the way you've always got to have the last word. You insult me, now you say something like that? That's it, I'm out of here.
We then cut to later, possibly another day, I'm not sure. I think they're using the same establishing shot every time anyway. But we see the task force looking into Kira and the Yatsuba group. We see everyone being helpful, and this makes Matsui want to be useful, so Elle sends him off to do some bitch work, and we're introduced to the new characters. We get Sawyer from Lost and Catwoman, or in other words, a con man and a safecracker.
What's your problem, Jumbotron? Shut up, redneck man. Touche.
We then cut to Aizawa drinking some Mad Dog on a park bench, smoking a plastic tip Black and Mild on a Tuesday afternoon. His wife and kids find him and they check up on the poor guy, and while telling his family that he finally has time for them, we end this episode with Aizawa breaking down into tears.
Mommy, why is Daddy crying?
I'm not with that sweet.
Perfectly fine sandwich. Let's put some Pop-Tarts in it for no goddamn reason.
Fucking retarded. Or let's put
But
some
people be requesting that.
Let's put Kool-Aid.
It's just the Instagram generation. They
Let's
be
put
like
some
doing that
Kool-Aid.
shit
Let's
because
put
it
some-
looks good, but it don't taste good.
It doesn't look good though. I don't want Pop-Tarts on my.
You just got shot by a pig.
No, it's anime. You put 2 movies together. That's how Soul Flow and What's Love Got You. I like that about it.
Getting into the manga, when the task force is telling Elle that he should end confinement, Aizawa brings up how if Light was Kira, he wouldn't have needed to kill the FBI agents if he could continue to kill under the confinement he's currently in. This not only gives the task force more reason to want to end the confinement, but it also plants the seed of Aizawa not liking Elle or his investigation process. While the scene where Chief Yagami is transporting Misa stays largely the same, when Misa starts to remember why she was kidnapped, she throws some shade, saying saying that an operation that clean couldn't have been done by mere detectives, and it's funny seeing Misa being snippy when she's usually ditzy. Also, I'm not sure if it's a cultural thing, a translation error, or just the fact that Misa really doesn't know his name, but she calls Chief Yagami father, and it threw me off the first time I saw it. While in the anime, L will be executed if the killings don't stop, in the manga, L would be taking his own life, which makes it seem like more of a personal on-taking of responsibility and not just insurance demanded by the United Nations. So I feel like I bring this up every episode, but while this scene's good in the manga, it's great in the anime with the pacing. Only so much you can do on paper, yada yada yada, but especially with this scene in particular, it's shot and paced like a mafia execution, and it really adds gravity to the situation with the long silence after the shot.
From one murderer to another, I'll see you in hell.
No, Dad!
Although in the anime, Light and L teaming up is more of a, well, on to the next thing. In the manga, it's more like Light has finally earned the ability to work with the task force, and like most things the manga does differently, it adds texture to this scene. We open this next manga chapter with a splash of color, and while it's logistically impossible for a Shonen Jump manga to be full color, this page looks great, and it really makes me want to see a fan project or something going through and adding color to the entire series. Also, if any of you guys know where I can get this page as a poster, let me know down in the comments. While in the anime, Light and Misa's relationship post-relinquishing is more or less vanilla, in the manga we get more of the Light using Misa angle, and it's hard to put into words. If I were to try, I guess it would be something like this. In the anime, they kept some memories like knowing each other and being in a relationship, and this is the same in the manga, but in the anime, Light and Misa are just a couple and that's about it. But in the manga, with how Light tells her that she's the one that fell in love first, it seems like Light remembers more of his previous memories of the Death Note. And if this is the case, I wonder if it could be because Light probably used his notebook more than Misa, and also he had Misa's Death Note, and it could just work like radiation. Like, the more exposure you have, the more you can remember after relinquishing ownership. I don't know, and there's probably someone in the comments that does, so let me know and I'll pin the comment with the most conclusive answer at the top. I love exploring this series, but I don't know everything, and there have been things I've missed in the past. In the same vein, I'm writing this at 5 p.m. and I've been drinking vodka Red Bulls since noon, so I might have just missed this in the anime. But when Elle is questioning Misa about her being at Aoyama, he brings up how she just saw Light and then knew his name, and it makes me wonder about the fine print of relinquishing ownership of the Death Note. Like, strong memories such as love and hate stay, cool, I'm fine with that. But we're talking about the gods of death here, and they couldn't even give Misa an alibi as to how she would know Light's name. I mean, there was the whole Misa buying Light's information off of the dark web, and they could have done something with that, but the conclusion being, I know because I know, feels unsatisfactory, especially when the manga usually goes into Asperger's levels of details over other things. When Misa's telling the task force that if Light was Kira, she would be even more in love with him, we get Elle's thoughts on Misa being the second Kira, and it's kind of a hidden in plain sight thing. Like, Elle's right, he's on point with his analysis, but Light and Misa technically aren't Kira anymore, so technically it doesn't matter anymore. Something like this happens in the anime, but the scene is such a sitcom, it's more of a passing observation rather than a point to be made. Also in the manga, we get the detail that Misa's room in the hotel is connected to Light's, and Misa also calls Matsui old, and like, come on Misa, Matsui is a hot piece of ass. I'm gonna look up how old he is right now, hold on. Okay, so I'm not sure when the proverbial time skip happens, but I'm assuming right now we're pre-time skip, and that would put him in his mid-20s. Now, let me look up Misa's age. First off, I'm glad she's legal. Second off, you're just a couple years away from each other, like you should not be talking this bold right now, Misa. So, in my heart of hearts, I know that this is most likely a fan translation thing, but in my headcanon, I'd like to think that this is what Aizawa said the whole time. While Light protests to using Misa to get a confession in both the anime and the manga, he has a bigger problem with it in the manga, which makes the remark Elle says after telling the team about the Fantastic Tower even funnier. Like, cold calculating isolated L is great, don't get it twisted, but the L that makes bitchy remarks is almost infinitely more entertaining, and we're about to see a lot of that in these next few episodes. While the Yotsuba group is talking about Kira being among them, we get more red herring-esque responses, which better sets up the guessing game that's about to happen. While I didn't really touch on this in the anime part of the video, it's really interesting to see what would happen if the Death Note were to fall into different hands. I mean, Rem is still there guiding it all, but the proxy Kira still gets full access as long as he fulfills his part of the deal. And I'm not sure what they're trying to say with this, but I have a feeling that they're trying to say something. We also get more motivation of the Yotsuba group, with them talking about the pros and cons of killing certain people, and it makes the side plot feel more established rather than tacked on. We also see that the Yotsuba group already knows about L before the task force even start investigating, which makes sense. Like, if they're using Kira to kill the competitors, they would have to know about L at this point. I like the part where Aizawa is entering the tower in the anime better, and it mostly comes down to the manga cutting out the part where Aizawa throws his hands up and says fuck it. While Aizawa has been in the background for most of the series, he only really got 2 episodes to shine, and that's the news station incident and this episode, and I kinda wish we saw more of him before he left the series. Misa is also really hot and horny in the manga, and Misa is also really hot and horny in the manga, and while I'm sure Light's a very selfless lover, Misa hasn't been on that pony yet, so I'm not sure why she's fiending this hard. Light very well could be a 2-pump chump, and I'm not sure the Kira clout would make Misa stay after that. L also makes a good point when he's telling Light and Misa how he's depressed, and that if Kira was controlling Light and Misa, why didn't he just kill them after they got captured? Which, like, yeah, Light, why is that, Light? L also brings up how Light was a good candidate since he would have gotten access to police information, which was exactly what he was doing. Like, L was pretty much right about everything, and then Light did the great switcheroo and flipped the whole investigation on its head. We also get a callback to the Light produced Kira tape when L brings up that Kira said share the power, and for just being a line meant to mess with the investigators, it seemed to have saved Light and to a lesser extent Misa's ass. While in the anime the fight scene is more of Light trying to get some pep in steps, in the manga Light seems genuinely pissed that L isn't doing anything, and he brings up all the people that have helped and died trying to catch Kira. When Matsui is calling the room to break up the fight, he gets a call right before informing him of Misa's rising popularity, and it makes Matsui look dumb. Like, in the anime he calls the room and tells them some bullshit to get them to stop fighting, but here it feels like a kid running to his parents to tell them some trivial shit. We also get a page in the manga where Rim is telling the proxy Kira about the real Kira, and a couple of things here. I'm not sure if it's just Rem not wanting to spill the beans to the proxy Kira, but it sounds like Rem doesn't even know the plan, saying that when she last saw him, he had his death note and his own god of death. And secondly, I miss you, Ryuk. Like, he has no place in this current arc, and I'm really glad that they didn't try and squeeze him in somewhere for a cameo, but at the same time, Ryuk was a great companion for Light, and an overall chill guy. I don't remember exactly how Ryuk is reintroduced, but my headcanon is that him and Light run into each other's arms on the beach at sunset. While Rem and the proxy Kira are talking, we learn about how sickness and the Death Note work, but more importantly, we see Rem reading a magazine, and I don't know exactly why, but the idea of a god of death reading a Time magazine is just funny. It gives me vibes of when you were a kid and you didn't know how to read, but you wanted to be like the adults, so while you were in the waiting room, you grabbed the magazine and just looked at the pictures and pretended like you were reading. Anyone else do that, or was it just me? During this meeting with Rem and the proxy Kira, we also learned that while maybe not a good thing, crime did raise when people thought Kira was gone, and even though we might have not needed it before, now that Pandora's box has been opened, we do need a Kira figure to deal out the justice. In the manga, when Light is finding out about the Yotsuba group, we get a lot more of an explanation, with Light walking us through his thought process. We also get a cheeky callback to when Light was at the hospital with his father and L, and Light said that an adult would use the Death Note for personal gain, whereas a child would see themselves as a figure of justice. Also, if you remember earlier in this video, I talked about how it's cool to see what would happen if the Death Note fell into other hands. While I didn't really touch on this in the anime part of the video, it's really interesting to see what would happen if the Death Note were to fall into different hands. And it's kind of neat getting some justification on that opinion. Also, if you remember earlier, I talked about the Asperger's level of detail the manga goes into, and here's what I was talking about. Like, they spend multiple pages talking about what software they used, how the stock prices were affected, the whole nine. Also, I'm not sure if this is just the Born Again Light realizing this, or if it's the whole task force, but they're only just now realizing that Kira can kill with more than just a heart attack, and I swear they figured this out sooner, but I don't know. Like, I'm gonna be real honest here. I originally made this series when I had nothing better to do, but now I have a bunch of channels and musicians that I manage and make content for, so my schedule is a little bit more filled nowadays. This is all to say that the first few videos I was doing in a couple of days, but these past few videos I make in a couple of weeks, so I'll watch the anime one day, then write the script for that part another day, then read the manga a different day, and so on and so on. So some things do slip through the cracks. I'm also a degenerate alcoholic, but that's for me and my future therapist to work through.
Every day is a gift. It's just doesn't have to be a pair of socks.
In the manga, we get to see the task force talking about the new killings, and L pretty much hits the nail on the head with his assessment, but that's not the important thing here. The important thing is that Matsui calls Kira cool and groovy, and like, what? I think what they're trying to do with this is add to the whole Matsui trying to be young and cool since he's Misa's manager and has nothing else going for him. In the manga, when L is talking about Watari, Light asks who that is, and we learn that Watari was one of the fake L's that Light talked to at one point, and it's kind of cool in the sense that in the anime, Watari is just kind of an old guy L knows, but with him being one of the fake L's, it's like he was in the field instead of just being behind a computer and getting L cakes. We also learn that Watari has connections in the finance circles, and it makes Watari feel like his own character rather than L's caretaker. When Chief Yagami is talking to the police, it takes place as it happens rather than a flashback, and it also goes into more detail. Like in the anime, it's just Chief Yagami telling the task force that Kira's bought the police, but in the manga we hear about the political motivation behind the decision. I'll get more into this in my closing thoughts, but in the manga, Kira is still a threat, and we can see this with how the police say he's the ultimate weapon of Japan, and it adds more gravitas to the situation. Like in the anime, it's just, hey, Kira has the police, what now? Whereas in the manga, it's treated like a national threat, and we can better understand why the police did what they did. Like, it's still the wrong thing to do, but when you realize that this is now bigger than your city and it's a worldwide phenomenon, realistically, you'll lose control over the situation and just have to go with the popular vote. Also, with this scene being an actual scene in the manga, not just a summary of events, we get to hear the terms and conditions that come with staying with the police, which include not being able to bring in anything that communicates with L and not wandering off during your shift. And this gives Chief Yagami even more incentive to leave the police. While the task force is talking about quitting the police, we learn that Matsui only got the job at the police because he knew a guy who knew a guy, and this one little line adds a lot to Matsui's character. Like, before he would try and be helpful, it was like the dumb kid wanted to do something, but knowing this changes it into a I've been handed a lot of things and now I want to be known for what I did, not just what I was given kind of thing, and it adds a lot of depth to the character of Matsui. When Aizawa is trying to be on both teams at the same time, L brings up how if he were to investigate Kira on his own, he can do that, but dying with the police would mean he would be dying in service of something, where if he was to die trying to catch Kira, it would be seen as selfish and pointless, and this adds to the decision-making process Aizawa goes through. Like in the anime, it's mostly Aizawa just going through it by himself, but here with L chiming in and telling him honestly the truth, it also plays into the test angle that Watari ruins when he brings up the funds. In the anime, it's kind of a rug pull and the payoff is minimal, but here with the interaction L has with Iowa, it's more like he's directly testing Aizawa rather than just observing his actions. Also, when Chief Yagami is talking about why he wants to stay on the force, he talks about how him and his son were confined for over 50 days, and all of his children are grown at this point, and this does a lot. Especially with him calling it his selfishness, we get character development for Chief Yagami, and we see how he values family, telling Aizawa that his kids are still kids and he needs to be there for them.
Family, 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 family.
The scene in the manga is also more drawn out, and it adds to the weight of the decision Aizawa has to make. Like in the anime, the level of emotion is your manager catching you smoking by the dumpsters while clocked in, but in the manga we get to really see the personal crisis Aizawa's going through. Also in the manga we get this nice little box in the corner that tells me how many days it's been, and they don't just use the same establishing shot, making me think this all happened in a day. The task force in the manga also get to work, finding out that the Yatsuba group related killings only happen on the weekends, and L questions if this is the same Kira he was looking for in the first place, because the OG Kira would spread out the dates and make it harder to track him down and put a pattern to it. Also, when we're introduced to Sawyer and Catwoman, it happens completely differently. In the anime, Matsui is wanting to help, so he gets L a coffee and then they notice the two. Where in the manga, while Matsui is still wanting to be helpful, he gets a call from Misa about a movie shoot and has to leave to handle that. Then L calls Watari and asks him to bring the two in. I'm not sure why they changed it, but if I had to put on my tinfoil hat, I would say that the anime is playing Matsui more dumb useful, and in the manga he's more of someone who's trying to prove themselves but never gets the right opportunity to. When the task force is talking about working with criminals, L mentions that he knows even more criminals he can call if he needs to, and since they aren't working with the police anymore, it doesn't really matter who they use or how they operate. We end the manga the same way we ended the anime, with Aizawa meeting his family on a park bench and breaking down into tears. Boy oh boy, is this already a long video. I'll try and keep these closing thoughts short, but I do have some things to say. Anime wise, they really gave me whiplash with the tone switch and new plots. It honestly felt like a spin-off show like the Joey show. There still were some good parts, it wasn't all bad, but the show definitely doesn't feel like the suspenseful cat and mouse game it used to be. Onto the manga, I liked how it handled these plot shifts. Like, it's still doing the same thing as the anime more or less, but the languages they use and the added Yatsuba scenes still give it that crime mystery vibes. It kind of feels like the anime rushed into this new phase while the manga took its time and made a smooth transition. Anyway, I don't want to have to be editing this video for a month, so I'm gonna get out of here. But I do want you to make sure you check out the podcast I co-host with Arnie King called Henny for Your Thoughts. We upload new episodes every 2 weeks. Also, check out the official Arnie channel. I got some music videos up there, and at the time of writing this, we just released the official music video for Drop the Addy by Arnie Fulivan. If you want to show your support and get behind the scenes updates, you should also follow me on Patreon. Until next time, later. Hey, what's up? This is not only the 10th installment of my series going over the Death Note anime and manga, but it's also the end of what I'm calling Season 1. I've been watching this series using a DVD set, and after these couple of episodes I'll be finished with the first set of DVDs, and it just felt like a good place to take a halftime. And honestly, I couldn't ask for better episodes to go over. I'll also be taking all of my other videos I've done in this series and making one long video for people that like to binge watch. Anyway, I don't want to waste any more time, so let's get into the season finale of my series going over the Death Note anime and manga. We open this episode with a highlight reel of every time Matsuda has been shit on, and if you don't already know, this is an episode all about Matsuda.
Here's the clicker. No one would blame you.
We get to see Misa on the set of a new movie, and after she makes a huss and fuss about the kissing scene, the production takes a break and Matsuda notices the Yatsuba building. We then get another highlight reel of Matsuda getting shit on, and this makes him want to infiltrate the building and get some intel. We take a break from the A-plot to see Light questioning himself and if he could have done what Kira has done.
Would I punish evildoers and criminals if I could kill by just seeing a name and face? Is that what I'd do if I had that sort of power?
After Elle offers Light some cake, Watari chimes in and tells Elle that someone has hired Geraldo Coyle, the second best detective, to investigate Elle. While the rest of the task force is panicking, Elle tells him that he's Geraldo Coyle, Elle, and Denev, or in other words, Elle is the top 3 detectives in the world.
I'll give you this strawberry if you keep it a secret, okay?
I'm impressed as always, Ryuzaki.
We then cut back to Matsuda infiltrating the Yatsuba building, and while Matsuda begins to question if he should just leave now, he overhears some of the members talk about the secret meetings, and this motivates him to go all the way. We then cut back to L and the task force talking about their very delicate plan of action to get into the Yatsuba group.
You want me to make sure that we're able to breach the security and override the surveillance cameras in the Yotsuba group's head office? Is that all?
Stop smoking black and mild, bitch.
Getting back to Matsuda, he goes Super Saiyan to listen in on the meeting and confirms that they are in fact planning on killing people. After Matsuda falls through the door, he hits the panic button on his belt and tries to bullshit his way out by saying that he's Misa's manager and wants to know if they'd be interested in working with her.
Matsuda, you idiot.
While being questioned about his intentions, Matsuda gets a phone call.
Yo,
Ryuzaki.
This scene is great, with L actually taking part in the action, so to say. After confirming that Matsuda is in danger, the task force try and come up with a plan.
We have to consider that if Matsuda dies, our suspicions about the Yotsuba group would be confirmed. Let's just watch the situation for the time being.
While the rest of the group is talking about killing Matsuda, one of the group members says that he might actually consider his offer. After this, we see Misa taking a break from filming, and she answers some phone calls.
I got a call from Light. He really does worry about me when I'm late.
I'm over here stroking my dick. I got lotion on my dick right now. I'm just stroking my shit. I'm horny as fuck, man.
After Misa picks up the phone, she makes her way to the Yatsuba building and introduces herself. We then get a great scene of the Yatsuba group getting invited to an orgy.
Hey, is it just me or is this getting weird?
Using the party as a distraction, Matsuda grabs Misa's phone and heads to the bathroom to call L. L also has a toilet cam, and I'm just gonna point it out and move on, no need to think about it. Matsuda tells L that these men are in fact using Kira to kill, and L comes up with a plan to get Matsuda out of there.
Well, luckily you're still alive, so we may be able to save you. But for that to happen, you will have to die before they can kill you.
What?
While Matsuda is doing his thing, Misa cheers him on, but I don't think she knew what the plan was. This scene is pretty much what the next chapter in the Death Note series is going to be. What I mean by that is the elaborate setups and plans that come out of nowhere and just kind of end up working. It's not bad per se. Seeing L wearing an ambulance uniform was nice.
Matsuda, you idiot.
The scene is also great because it shows that even though they're always shitting on Matsuda, they genuinely do care about him and were willing to do all of this just to save him. Like, the little pat on the back that Chief Yagami gives him is just great. We then cut to the next day where Sawyer from Lost is pretending to be Geraldo Coyle and calls the member of the group that requested him. We get the most character development for the Yatsuba group that we've seen so far when the member that wanted to give Misa a chance starts losing it.
I don't know who Kira is and I don't care. I just don't want to get wrapped up in this and end up in jail.
Hattori, I think you're going to end up dead tomorrow.
We then cut to Catwoman on the roof of the building who just got done installing cameras and wiretaps.
Security level here is a joke.
We end this episode with the task force watching in on a meeting with one empty chair.
But if there's supposed to be 8, why are there only 7?
We open up this episode with the new intro of the series, and I feel like I would like it more if the original just wasn't so iconic.
Dennis, you jealous douche. How about I crank a little
The World by Nightmare.
and play,
What's up, people?
and we can see how they stack up side by side? Huh? You want that, you high-voiced bastard?
Picking up right where we left off, we see the task force watching in on a Yatsuba meeting. It's like the anime is finally getting around to establishing the Yatsuba group as the main villain, with the task force being shocked at how the group talks about murder.
This is unbelievable. It's like they're trying to confess to everything.
What do we call that? I think everybody knows what we call that. We call that self-snitching.
It's kind of funny seeing Light's reaction to all this compared to early series Light.
Kira, deaths by accident, by disease, designated times of death.
Also, we get some peak L.
That's just immoral.
Right.
Here it comes.
In fact, we get peak L this entire episode.
What is it? There's no need to yell in unison.
The main conflict is that Chief Yagami and Light are wanting to prevent the killings, and L is trying to tell them that if they do that, it would jeopardize everything they've worked for. Light then starts thinking like a gambler and says that if he calls one of the members to blackmail them, they'll have a 1 in 7 chance of calling Kira.
Judging from their conversation so far, the one least likely to be Kira, but with the most influence is Namikawa.
Light's demands are for the member to delay the killings, and before the member can even second guess himself, Light seals the deal with threats of legal action.
Do you realize something? Let me tell you.
They could condemn our house.
You go get that goddamn stuff off of there and fast.
I'm working on it.
And with that, Light has managed to not only delay the killings, but also get a mole in the Yotsuba group with 1 phone call, and L is quite impressed. So impressed that if he were to die, he would want Light to take over the investigation. Light sees right through this though, and tells the task force what L is really thinking.
Ryuzaki, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to tell everyone what you're really thinking right now.
While laying it all out, Light reminds us that he gave up the Death Note and made a secret plan with Ryuk, and I'm excited to see how the real Kira comes back. After Light asks L if he truly thinks he could have been or possibly still is Kira, Light and L fuck it out again.
Yes, you do. I've always thought so.
You comedian asshole! Back it up, bitch!
Chief Yagami starts asking if they could prevent the killings, and L tries again to explain to him why that would be a bad idea. After Chief Yagami and Light are still pushing the issue, L breaks up the band and tells them that they can do what they want to do, but from here on out, L's going solo on this.
I think from now on I should go after Kira by myself. You can use these headquarters as you wish. I'll also be here.
We then see L using Class A manipulation, starting with Misa.
Light! I didn't know we were supposed to have a date. Oh, right, I should have known.
Using Misa's love for Light, L gets Misa to join the investigation, even though Light is and has been against Misa getting involved from the start. We also get a great line when Misa is talking about being torture-proof.
No problemo. I promise I won't say anything, even if they torture me.
I can attest to that.
Light is still protesting, so L puts the manipulation into overdrive and not only gets Misa to join the task force, but also gets her to do a complete 180 on her feelings about L.
Oh no, I think I've totally misunderstood you all this time. I even called you a pervert.
Misa also starts what's definitely just an open relationship and totally not just you getting cucked. Trust me on this one, I know what I'm talking about. And L sets up Light to be forced to join him and Misa rather than his father.
You're leaving me with no other choice but to join your...
No, that's quite alright.
What are you talking about? Of course he'll be joining us.
That's not it either.
Speaking of Light's father, he and the other task force members have been watching this all go down, and we end the episode with them crawling back to L.
Figuring out the logistics of arresting 7 people is going to be challenging. I don't suppose you two have any ideas. Mogi? Matsuda?
You might meet them in an alley someday. Stick you in the gut. Your innards all over the street. Scream out my name. Damn, you was there. You was right.
Got crossed by my nigga, that's why I ain't got no heart in me. I'm from the hardest streets, the struggle, man, that's what started me. Niggas fraud to me, no smoke, but we want all the beef, real niggas in danger. So you know we tatted R&E.
But he's a great person.
Chuck Norris will fuck you up.
In a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat, bro. That is a master of multiple
He
martial
could
arts.
wink at you and your sphincter would collapse.
What kind of power do you think Chuck Norris got?
It's all about being a warrior. 6th century Japan. Magistrate comes through for the taxes. You whip this shit out and say, "Take that, you Mongol son of a bitch."
10 swords, our most incredible sword deal of all time. This is a historical moment, not a sales pitch.
We open the manga the same way we open the anime, with the exception of the Matsuda highlight reel. While Light is thinking to himself, he's thinking about Ray Penber and his missing fiancée rather than the abstract ideas of being able to make judgments of death. Also, in a previous episode, I talked about how the task force is just now learning that Kira can kill with more than just a heart attack, and I said how I thought that they found this out way sooner, but I could just be remembering Light's conversation with Shoko. Light also thinks about how he shouldn't tell L any of this because it would just complicate things, and I mean, he's not wrong. L also brings up how Light's hacking skills would be good enough to get into police computers, and it's great at making the story feel more connected and events having long-lasting consequences. Speaking of consequences, when Matsuda is sneaking into the Yatsuba building, he thinks about how he's not a part of the police anymore, and if he gets caught, he could be arrested. While Matsuda is listening in on the meeting, we see that he listens in for over an hour, which is pure dedication, and when he falls through the door, it's because of one of the Yatsuba members needing to drain the main vein. We open this next chapter of manga with a splash of color, and while I don't like it as much as the other page, it still has a nice color palette. While the Yatsuba group is deciding if they should kill Matsuda, we hear them talking about how if they do kill him, they can't do it at the office, and if they have it be an accident, he might be able to tell someone before the accident happens, and it lets us see into the thought process of the Yatsuba group. While the group is trying to figure out what to do, we get a great carrot on a stick when Kira is thinking about how he left his death note at his house, but if he were to leave, the rest of the group would know that he is Kira. But his face is covered by a thought bubble, so we still don't know which member is Kira. When Sawyer from Lost calls the Yatsuba member, we get to hear what the member is thinking, and he questions if it's the real Coil, but he comes to the conclusion that there are only two people that would know he requested him, and that's his agent and Coil himself. We also get to hear how smooth of a talker Sawyer is. When Hattori is freaking out, it makes more sense because just before that they talk about how Coil knows that they have a connection with Kira and is requiring hush money. It adds more pressure to the situation, making the group try and think of ways they could kill Coil after they get what they want. Nawakama also chimes in and says that he knows what Kira wants, and that's knowledge. More specifically, Kira set out to change the world, and he has, so now his next step will be building wealth, which is why he's working with the Yatsuba group. But then after getting wealth, he'll need to get good social standing, and if Kira is one of the Yatsuba members, he can get both wealth and social standing. When the Yatsuba group is deciding whether or not to pay Coil, they talk about trying to buy him out and get him to join the dark side, and we really get a lot of Yatsuba development in the manga. We even see them go from thinking 2 million up front and 10 on the back end was too much money to paying Coil 5 million up front and 10 on the back end to try and get on his good side. After the meeting is over, we see one of the members talking to another, and he tells them that Coil could be a spy sent from another country. They might have the Japanese police, but Kira doesn't just kill Japanese criminals, and Coil could even be a spy for L. Shimura is told to stop being a negative Nancy, and if it comes down to it, Yatsuba can send some missiles to L and Coil's hideouts, which is played off as a joke, but I'm not sure about that. I mean, they don't have actual missiles, so he's not being literal, but I feel like he's being more hyperbolic rather than comedical. We see Sawyer reporting in with L and giving him a status update, and we learn that L has saved Sawyer's life multiple times, and he doesn't mind putting his life on the line because working with L gives him a better life. We get a surprising amount of character development for L when he treats letting Sawyer use one of his identities like sleeping on the couch for the night. While in the anime, the task force are the only people shocked by Hattori's death, we see in the manga that some of the Yatsuba group are shocked by it too, and they take it more as a warning and not just a part of business. It also helps to make the Yatsuba group feel like a group of people and not just a hive mind of multimillionaire murderers. Also, when the group is reading Coil's report, Watari is mentioned, and I think it's to give them just enough information to stay on the hook, but not enough for them to be done with Coil. But like, what did Watari do? I mean, I know he's a very capable person, but he's also a very old person, and they now know who he is and that he has connections with L and was the stand-in when talking to the police. We also hear about how the other countries are handling Kira, and it's nice to see this being a worldwide phenomenon when in the anime you really just hear about the local side of the Kira case. When the group is talking about mixing up the killing times, we see one member pointing the finger at another, and it gives the sense that this isn't a group of friends going out for drinks after work. It's an uneasy alliance between business partners, and now that things aren't going smooth anymore, they can't rely on their non-existent friendship to save them. We see just how separate but equal the group is when one of the members suggests that Kira should just reveal themselves, that way they can ask him questions directly, but this idea is shot down for fear of meat riding. I didn't talk about this when going over the anime, but it really does make sense why L goes all out on the manipulation tactics when you consider all of the time and money L has spent on this case just for it to get potentially ruined by a self-righteous ex-chief of police. L also talks about how the evidence is out there and they need to find it in order to catch Kira, and we see Matsuda chiming in, bringing up the fake L that died on the news and the boat of FBI agents that were killed. Basically, Matsuda's point is if there wasn't any evidence that could lead to Kira, then he wouldn't have needed to kill those people, and it's nice to see Matsuda getting a dub for once. Along the same vein, when L is trying to explain why arresting the Yatsuba group would be a bad idea, we see Matsuda adding his 2 cents, when in the anime it was more of a 2v1 with the Yagamis against L, and it's always a good thing when characters get development, especially because I think Matsuda is one of like the 3 people that make it out alive by the end of the story. When L is manipulating Misa, Light brings up how they could use the Death Note to get Misa to spill the beans before killing her, and in rebuttal, L pulls out a sheet of paper from the shredders at the Yatsuba office, and on this piece of paper are all of the rules and regulations for using Kira to kill, and I'm not sure why this was omitted from the anime. It's a great hat pull moment, and it adds to the fact that the Yatsuba group, while thinking they're invincible, are actually quite sloppy. We end the manga the same way we ended the anime, with the task force listening in on L's conversation, but in the manga it's less clear that Chief Yagami is going back to L. Like with the line delivery in the anime, we get the sense that they're gonna work with L again, but in the manga it seems like Chief Yagami is actually considering starting the investigation by himself. Wow, it's crazy to think I've been making this series since 2023. We're only halfway through the series, so this isn't the end, but it has been a journey. I'm more familiar with the first half of episodes, so from here on out, I'm basically going in blind, and I'm excited to see what comes next. I'll be taking a break from the series for a while and focusing on other content, but I will be returning to the series at some point. I'll also be uploading a compilation video with all of the episodes put together with director's commentary between episodes, where I'll talk about my updated opinions and anything I forgot to mention in the episode. If you like my content and want to see more of me for some reason, I co-host a podcast with Arnie King called Henny for Your Thoughts, and we upload new episodes every 2 weeks. I also make music videos, and you can check those out by going to the official Arnie channel or just looking up Pimp Turkey 69 in the YouTube search bar.
You just got shot by a pimp.
I've also started streaming again on Twitch, so if you want to catch me live, check out my Instagram where I'll post updates on if I'm streaming or not. Anyway, I think that'll be all for this video. Until next time, later.
That when he's 15 years old, he read a book by Helen Keller. And that book changed his life. Books can change your life. And in that book, Helen Keller said,